Well, I can say I've been dreaming about this. I've been dreaming about you. I've been dreaming about the return of Filmatic.
Oh, very nice.
I mean, I do have to say, you are just the most interesting man in the world. Everybody's talking about you. Everybody's talking about the return of Filmatic, and we want to explore that.
Well, that's very kind of you. Now,
Well,
here's my pitch.
We want to pitch.
Can I?
Okay.
Dream Scenario, the podcast. It would be me talking about Dream Scenario with you guys.
What is Dream Scenario?
It's a movie, 2023, Nick Cage, Kristoffer Borgli, I believe, if I'm saying that correctly.
Who is Kristoffer Borgli?
Swedish director. He's made a few short films. Guys, this is why I came here.
I've never heard of him. Well, we had some ideas.
Okay.
Darian, you had an idea, right?
Yeah, short films. We were thinking in the realm of short form internet content, maybe TikToks, if you've heard of TikToks. We had an offer for Marvel. We would be willing to have you host a new TikTok series where you break down Marvel Cinematic Universe theories, kind of like New Rock Stars.
Yeah, like old school MatPat videos, but new age TikTok. It's perfect.
I don't think we're on the same page here. I don't even know what TikTok is. I'm not interested in doing it. I came here because I thought you guys would help me with the Dream Scenario podcast. That's my profession.
Kick.com. Have you heard of Kick.com? No?
No, what is Kick.com?
Live streaming?
It's like live streaming. You do this thing where you like gamble live. And you make a lot of money.
I'm not interested in this. I want to do the Dream Scenario podcast.
Okay. So I think we can restart here. I think.
Yeah. Let's just take a step back. Let's start over.
I think
when I first met you, Mr. Sharif, that I misunderstood the type of man you were. And I think that, this is a really important collaboration to all of us. I think that we're all very enthusiastic about this. And, if you're not that into the idea of TikTok, then we can make something work with your, is it podcasting?
Yes.
The dream concept.
Dream Scenario. Kristoffer Borgli. I'd also be open to doing anything else. Any of the other Kino from this year. The Killer, Michael Fassbender, directed by David Fincher, of course.
Who is Michael Fassbender?
He's.
Could you name some figures in this field you like? I don't know.
Fincher, Scorsese. I mean, Gareth Edwards did The Creator recently. I thought.
All right. Well.
No. I'm familiar. I know where we're positioned now.
It's Fincher, not Pincher.
We want you to just think about the TikToks, think about the gambling streams, think about the money you can make off of that. But we can do this podcast.
Sounds
just so you know, the door on TikTok could close, but
TikTok. Not exactly my dream scenario.
That was great.
I think that was good.
There we go. Good work, team. Good work, team. It was great.
Sorry about that.
Kristoffer Borgli.
I forgot his last name. Dude, I literally what is his name? What is his
Just made up.
Kristoffer Borgli from Norway.
I don't even think.
I think that's funny.
That's all right. We can just make a joke about it.
Yeah.
Borgli Artie from Sweden is so funny.
All right, guys.
Dream scenario.
Welcome. Wait, what's that?
We're back.
We're back. Welcome back to Filmatic. It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a minute since
Let's go.
you know, we've seen you earlier this year when we finished off the summer of Stiller, but we're back with season 6 of Filmatic, and what better way to start it off with an incredible movie with some incredible people. So go ahead and introduce my friends today, the people on the podcast. First off, the picture above me, Mr. Evan Lamall.
Hello.
How's it going, Evan? Are you excited to be back on Filmatic?
Yeah, of course. It's great to be back.
All right.
I feel revitalized, and we're gonna have a great discussion.
I think so.
Oh yeah.
And of course, we're here with Casey and M, aka Sun Grazer.
Hello, Sun Grazer here. I'm Casey. I'm kind of a Filmatic regular, you could say. I hear my podcast visits get the highest reviews.
Not true.
Okay. Well, understood. But I've been around for some good times, and I'm excited to be around for some more. You know, they tried to tell us Filmatic was canceled. They said you will never have another Filmatic episode. What season are we on? Filmatic season
6.
5? 6.
And you know what we said
6?
about that? You know what we said about that? What we said to the haters?
Shut your bitch ass up.
Yeah. We got a soundboard,
We have a
ladies and gentlemen.
soundboard.
This
For
is
as long
my,
as someone is
last
paying
thing I'd like to say.
for Discord Nitro, we have a soundboard.
Yeah, we do.
Nope.
Okay, that's gonna get cut.
Let's
All right.
get to our.
All right, understood.
I don't really know.
All right.
Final guest.
all right,
Final
just-
guest.
I didn't even say anything.
Final guest. Mr.
You
Darian
took-
Nigro. How's it going, Darian?
M didn't get to introduce themselves.
Oh,
all right.
Pardon me. Please go ahead.
Bro is
I don't want anyone
gonna
to
be
think
when
the
he
podcast is
silences
sexy.
You know-
queer
you know-
people.
Is it my fault that you've seem to have intentionally set your mic higher than M's? It's like it seems much harder to hear M than you.
We've got one microphone.
Oh, is it a cardioid
I
microphone
just-
or
I
is it an omnidirectional microphone? Because I think you'll find
ACNM, it's our first time having not male participants on the podcast
Mhm.
that we're trying to actually give like full credibility to. So
Yeah.
What I'm sorry, Darren. What does that mean?
normally this is
Can
a
you elaborate?
monogendered podcast. So
I
You
know,
know,
but
it's
Casey's
gr-
been on before, right? Who's also non-binary.
well it's
So-
it's
It
doesn't matter
arguable
which-
whether or not Casey has ever been credible in the podcast is what I'm saying, you know.
Oh,
I
okay.
see. I see.
I know. Okay,
But-
with you.
Nadeel's working on it, all right?
I've
There's a
pulled-
clip floating around.
There's a
that-
clip floating around on the Filmatic YouTube. It's called "Is Filmatic Sexist?" In this clip, I mentioned that we're trying to pull together all the resources of the males in our friend group to try and get
Mhm.
a woman on our podcast because the combined clout of all of us is almost equal to one man. So
Mhm.
They know.
what's the
Yeah.
whispering?
We're
This
off to a
this
great start.
This is
I've also been here before.
Yeah.
I know
was
that.
here for
I know that.
Black
I didn't say
Adam.
anything. Yeah, Black Adam, of course.
Black
There
Adam.
have also been
Black Adam.
there have also been women on the
There have
podcast
Katrina
separately.
Dedovitz.
No, but I feel like we've, just this is for dream scenario, but we're also just catching up. We got a lot to catch
Yeah.
up on. M.
Hello.
Let's go.
Good to be here. Very
Good to be back.
excited. I would say I'm probably,
It disappeared.
Okay. No, continue to cut me off. Anything
Oh
else?
my god. Oh my god.
Yeah, happy to be here
Okay.
among esteemed colleagues.
Awesome. Good to have you. And now we get to Darian. What's up, Darian?
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's good to have you guys here. Jokes aside, we're getting the gang back together.
Gang is back
I
together.
feel like we're one person short, maybe, on the Sungrazer lineup.
Yeah, talk about
No,
short.
no.
One person
never mind.
short, like in stature.
Just two. I'm pretty short, I would say. Average, but taller than some people.
On a separate note,
There are
Connor
people
Park was
taller
supposed to
than-
be here on a completely separate note. But
Mhm.
for reasons undisclosed, he bailed at the last second, as well as Justin. But we
He's become otherwise occupied.
Yep. And
I hear he had to help his dad dolphin or something.
yo,
Whoa,
I thought we were
whoa.
gonna talk about
Could
that.
be bad.
It's kind
All
of
right, sorry.
dark, for season 6.
Bill
yeah.
writing down the timestamp so we can remove that from the podcast.
No, so I can bleep it like we always do. The
Just
dolphin.
write
Yeah.
like the first 10 minutes of recording.
Legitimately.
Yeah.
All right. So we're here
All
to
right.
talk about Dream Scenario, directed by Kristoffer Borgli, not Borgliarli, or whatever I said.
Borgli.
From Norway, not Sweden.
From Norway, not Sweden. Okay. And I think it was, great movie. I'd love to get into it with you guys. But first we should talk about the giveaway. Season 6
A new one?
giveaway. Okay?
Let's go.
So, I'm not going to say what the prize is yet. Call me burnout. But what I am going to say is to enter the giveaway. We're doing it at the beginning again this time so that you guys can, have a chance. Head to the post announcing the Dream Scenario podcast, the one that says out now, and comment something that Casey's going to make up right now.
You're guilty.
Comment you're guilty.
Comment you're guilty.
And to find out more
You're
about
guilty.
why that's the keyword, wait till the end of the podcast when we get to the plug section. So we're going to be plugging a local musician, but you'll have to wait.
And it's not Burnout.
And it's not
a new
Burnout.
local
It's not
musician.
Sungrazer. Okay, it's we are going to plug Sungrazer.
This
Obviously,
is new. It's a big reveal,
yeah. This is a big reveal. So stay tuned. All right, on to Dream Scenario. So, I guess the first sort of in Filmatic we've done full plot divulsion and gone through it step by step. We've also just kind of generally talked about it. So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts live on the podcast. How you feeling about this movie? And how do you want to go about this? Because I want to kind of take it case by case and guest by guest. What do you guys think? Anybody can, take this.
I think that there's so many little moments in the movie that it's hard to remember everything like good about it. Like there's so many small little details that the more I think about it, I keep remembering, and I'm like as we were just getting ready for the podcast, I was like, oh, this one part and then this one part. So I think like going through would be helpful,
Okay.
It doesn't need to be like exact, but I think going through like following I also feel like the as the story continues on shapes like kind of how you feel about it with this movie specifically. So
yeah, no, I think that's a good way to go about
I
it.
agree. I think we should just go, in the natural plot order and just kind of let the ideas flow kind of naturally how they would, as we were watching it.
Yeah, sounds great. And Evan, may I add your microphone sounds so much more crisp and volume to it than previous seasons of Filmatic.
Oh well, thank you. I was actually I won a very like a really like cool giveaway and got this microphone. It's what does it say? It says blue on it.
Yeah, blue.
And
Let's go.
yeah. And I plugged it into my laptop just for this occasion.
Let's go.
No
Very
fucking
nice.
way.
Okay. All right. Let's.
Thank you, Nabil, for the microphone. In other words.
No problem.
Oh wait, what? Oh shit! I
Nabil
didn't even know
Blue
that.
Evan. Okay.
Yeah,
that's
you-
Whoa!
You might say, right?
In fact, I blew myself, as you can see. So.
So did I.
Oh, wow.
No.
Oh.
I blew myself a long time ago. Back when I was
Okay.
like 14.
Calm down.
Whoa.
What's
Hold
going on? Did you just hit M? For audio listeners, Casey just
No.
struck
we-
M on
no.
the left side.
Well,
And
the
now
best
has
could
a
be
black and blue
something for
eye.
the new season.
Yeah.
That is a lot of
Cut
blood.
this.
Though. That's
Cut this,
crazy.
please.
I wish the
But-
audio listeners
I
could
was
see
like-
this.
You were like, I was like, you were like, I just blew, and I was like making this joke, and then Em was like, stop, and was reaching for the vape, and just
Got punched in the face. Just
yeah,
got laid out. Just
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So let's
Anyway,
begin.
all right,
Let's
lots to
begin
cut
with
here.
the film. All right. Yeah. What were you gonna say?
The
Good.
movie.
All right. Nicolas Cage, of course, playing Dr. Paul Matthews, who is a sort of an average Joe biology professor at a local college, who is someone who's is obviously very aspirational, but clearly hasn't been able to achieve those aspirations as many of people are unable to. I believe specifically we see at the beginning of the movie that he has an old colleague who got published, so he meets with her and tries to get credit on the publication, and that seems to be one of his big obsessions, is becoming published. Also, spoilers for Dream Scenario. Yes, in case you weren't aware
That's
by
fair.
now. So I just want to talk about the first scene, I guess. First, Nicolas Cage killed this role. I mean, if it becomes very evidently clear. I love one of my favorite little mannerisms. I'd love to hear what else you guys think about this section of the movie. When he's sitting at the table before he meets his old colleague, he is like practicing the way he's gonna move his head when he says hello. Isn't what I'm talking about? He's like,
Mhm.
which I was like, right out the gate, very, very drawn to. This character is very captivating. I don't know if anyone wants
Yeah,
to take over.
I feel like there's like just a lot of range in his performance throughout. At first it kind of I think it caught me off guard a little bit at first, but I think for reasons we'll probably explain as we go through the plot, he's kind of like I see him as like a pretty perfect actor for this role. Just
Yeah.
because like of his kind of, I don't know, he has a sort of like iconic status, and like everyone kind of sees him as almost kind of like a meme of sorts. And I feel like in the case of this movie's story, it works pretty perfectly.
Yeah, and I definitely want to touch upon that because it's something that he's talked about in interviews. I know Darian, we talked about this a little bit, but maybe we can save that for later. But so yeah, essentially plot wise, of course, pretty quickly, he goes to a play that night, and at the play he meets his ex-girlfriend, who tells him that she's been dreaming about him. Of course, also, I should mention at the beginning of the movie intro scene, his daughter was dreaming about him. And in both the scenes already, we're kind of told from the audience perspective that he is a bystander. He doesn't do anything, as we literally see in the intro of the movie. He's just standing there raking leaves. So that's starting as well. And after he meets with his ex-girlfriend, she posts about it on a blog, and by the next day, he's having hundreds of messages on Facebook that people are messaging him that they're seeing him in his dreams and this sort of thing. One of the funniest cuts in the movie, and I think one of the most kind of obvious I think because something I want to talk about is the humor in this movie, and I've already talked to some of you about this. About it's interesting to see. I saw the movie twice. Interesting to see how one audience reacted, another audience reacted, and how that works with what humor is implied and not implied in the movie. Or I guess to put it simply, what was supposed to be funny in the script and what wasn't. But I think this is very clearly a very funny moment. Is he's looking through all the messages. It's like, oh, there's a lot going on here. Like people are messaging me. He's talking to his wife, and his wife's like, "Don't do anything drastic." And then it hard cuts to him on the local news. Very funny.
And I think like beyond just the edit that makes it kind of funny is like what he like. I think the first thing he says is like, "Yeah, I guess I'm just a really special person," and I really like that line because it's like it kind of adds like a sort of tinge of like arrogance that I feel like is a very like underlying characteristic of his character, and I feel like that was kind of like one of the first moments where you kind of can sort of grasp that. So I thought it was like a really good like just good like developing line for his character.
Yeah, I think it's like kind of the first allusion to the fact that his obsession with getting published isn't necessarily, the result of like him being actually shafted or something, but it's rather he just feels entitled to being published, right? Like he wants really badly to be recognized for some kind of like exceptional quality that he feels, he should be.
Yeah, and beyond that, like, does he actually want the attention from publishing a smart scholarly work, or does he actually just want the attention in general?
Yeah, and I think that there's the great thing about this movie that we're definitely gonna get into and are starting to already is like there seems to be like a perfect debate for any point you bring up about it, because I can see an argument against this where it's like, oh no, when he was on the news saying that, he was just making a joke. He's clearly just joking, like, I'm a very special guy. I can see an argument that no, he doesn't. He does care about maybe fame only from his publication, because when he goes to the thoughts headquarters, he's very hell bent on, at least in the beginning. You know what I mean? There's a lot of like give and take, if you will.
Oh yeah, sure.
And that's one of the craziest and best things about this movie to me.
Just the kind of abstract nature of dreams, just gives it like the ability to be, interpreted in many different ways. Sorry to cut you off, Casey.
No, you're good. It shows like his character, it shows through his character and his performance that like the multifaceted ways in which he portrays himself, or Nick Cage portrays the character, like he's kind of unnerving, like in a lot of ways, and not just in like a socially awkward way, but in like he literally like at some points seems like he's acting like psychotic, but like in a very subdued way. I don't know how to describe it that well, but that's definitely like I felt that way even before things start to get like more intense throughout the movie. Like even those like you were talking about, those little like mannerisms, there's multiple ways to like, maybe he's just awkward but also like very calculated, and like he's like recording like the voice memo, and that's another really cool editing trick I wanted to mention from that scene, where they're like using the audio from the voice memo over the top of the scene being played, and like switching back between that and him listening to it in his car. And I think like his character like flipping from like that like awkward to like unnerving to like outright like hilarious just by like his actions and how he interacts with others, to like a very arrogant person, all while he's also like teaching a class and he's like trying to be professional and he's trying to present himself in a certain way. I think the movie is a lot about like appearances and like the fronts we put up by like how we want to be perceived by other people. So when the audience has a character that they can't really read it plays into that well.
Yeah, I think that's completely. It's a great point, and I think something that's very evident through the movie as well. So I guess just to continue plot wise, for the sake of doing this, he keeps, he talks to his, for example, I think in a scene soon after that, he has a very great sequence where all these students show up to class, including kids who aren't even in his class, because of the dreams, and you get a kind of play-by-play of many of the dreams. And first of all, it's hilarious because in all of them, he's passive, and people are dying, and he's just standing by. Of course, I think they're all very funny, but like a woman is like holding a dying man after a car crash, and he just walks by slowly and like waves and keeps walking.
Yeah, always has this like just kind of silly, like mysterious face, like when he looks at them. Like there's the guy who's being chased by like a monster, and he's hiding behind a tree, and like he just sees like it's just like Nick Cage. So like I just feel like there's kind of an immediate like kind of, I don't know, comedic factor to that, just because of like how we know, just I think culturally he's just kind of considered like this outrageous sort of character.
For sure. And then I guess this sort of culminates into a part where his family is asleep in the house, and I guess someone who is like schizophrenic breaks into the house and sort of tries to kill Paul Matthews. Kind of a first sign of the negative parts of this experience for him. And but then there's also positive experiences. His wife gets to work on a project at work because she's married to him. People are just because of the fame, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe more or less majorly the next part would be the scene that we parodied, the thoughts scene, in which Nicolas Cage goes to this firm headed by Michael Cera, very funnily. I remember people in our theater bursting out laughing just seeing his face when he turned around, which is awesome.
Can we talk about that? Because it's
please.
Both of them fill that same like fucking like, I don't even know what to call it, like that same space in like pop culture, that it's like it's like the same thing with him playing. He literally does the same thing in like the Barbie movie, like the character of Alan. No Barbie movie podcast, Nabil. Pretty. I
haven't seen it.
If you ask me, is Filmatic sexist? Anyway,
no one loves women more than me. No, I have not seen it.
I watched like half of it on TikTok live.
I want to see it.
You watched half of it on TikTok live stream?
Did you admit that?
Yeah, but then I fell asleep. I would have finished it. I was enjoying it.
Okay.
It was like anyway. It was like portrait mode, and then like the really like tiny landscape screen of the Barbie movie. And then under it is another screen of like some guy in his like Fortnite lobby just doing like, Fortnite dances.
I cannot even believe that. I refuse to believe that's real. But I'm sure that's how it was intended. Cinema, if you will.
Exactly.
But, it does kind of tick me off. Can we talk about that for a second? Because like Oppenheimer has come to home release, and on a plus side, the 4K Blu-rays, I was talking to Evan about this, like the 4K UHD copies have sold out, which is great for physical media. But the downside is like on TikTok, every other TikTok I see is just a clip it's just like 5 minutes of Oppenheimer. And I'm like, this is how, and it's got hundreds of thousands of likes. This is how people are watching the movie. I don't know.
No, I've seen that like on Twitter too. People are just like, fuck
posting
it,
the full
whole
movie.
Oppenheimer movie. And it's like 3 hours long. But
what about those like AI content farm videos where it's just like some AI voice like poorly like kind of describing what's going on, or just like narrating the movie?
I haven't seen that. I mean, what would it be like for Oppenheimer though? Like He is building the nuclear
The
bomb.
skinny man climbs
He
up
is-
the bomb tower. He takes his cowboy hat off.
He's experiencing the horrors of mankind as he stares
Yeah.
into the camera, wearing a little hat.
I've actually
I
said
will
this.
say,
He's
I
watching the
think
chain
that-
reaction of his
Yeah, wait.
actions
All right, Darian, go.
across the world.
I agree that that's not a great way to consume a film, obviously. And like, I think that is kind of like problematic for the way people are like, just consuming media. But I don't think it's necessarily like a new thing because it's just now it's on TikTok, right? But like on YouTube, I feel like for the past like 10 years, it's like,
Fair.
dude, I don't know if you've ever done this, but sometimes I'll see clips from a movie and they'll have like 10 scenes, right? 10 core scenes. I don't
Yeah, of
want to watch
course,
this
yeah.
movie. I don't even want to watch this video, but I just end up clicking on it. And now I'm watching the movie fragmented into these like randomly chosen scenes that like fade out
Look,
for no reason.
you know,
at a set
Fandango.
time.
You take Casey's example of like the full movie being posted on Twitter, which happens a lot, which is
Yeah,
I don't think there's anything
that is pretty
personally,
funny.
not trying to get in any trouble here. Piracy, I don't really care. Okay, listen, I think it's great, especially for big studios. Like, who cares if like
Piracy?
people? We're trying not to say it outright, but it's you know what I mean. Like, I don't really care. My problem is more so it's like it's on this. You're like watching Oppenheimer like this. That to me like just like hurts my brain a little bit that people are watching a movie like that. That's all. I don't care if you're watching the movie for free. I'm gonna be honest. I don't really care if I get in trouble. Not like this is gonna
At least
matter.
get a TV, dude. What are you?
Yeah, literally.
homeless?
Literally. Oh, well, no, not literally. Wait. I didn't know.
That was a joke.
I
I
didn't
know
know.
that Casey has been homeless, and that was the point of my
Okay.
joke. I just want
to point out. I said literally
I
before
know,
he
literally.
said homeless.
Literally.
Before he said.
I have friends that have been homeless.
I-
Okay, I have no problem with these people.
Austin Powers
Not to,
podcast.
like,
Remember that? All right.
Continue this tangent, but
No,
I don't know.
think
I
it's
feel
great.
like I'm kind of more on the, I guess like the opposite side of like David Lynch, where I don't really think watching a movie on a phone is like, I mean, obviously I'm like, it's not as good as seeing it on a big screen, but like, I think if that's just the means you have to access it, or like just
Okay.
the means you like are just the most comfortable. Like I love watching like a movie on my phone in my bed. I feel like I still get a similar experience. Of course, it's not going to be as like clear and crisp as watching it on a big movie screen, but I think just I think it doesn't really matter like how you ingest it, unless it's like Fandango clips just fragmented into like just a big like, or AI Oppenheimer. maybe I'll even go and say that watching Barbie on TikTok live stream it was pretty inconvenient. It hurt my eyes after a while.
Yeah, I mean,
But I think this is like a bigger issue with like the quality of media that we're talking about is like, not to take this outside of the scope of movies, but it's just kind of like a thing where if you increase the, accessibility to something, it's very likely that you're going to like decrease the quality of what's being provided to people. So it's like my joke kind of taken to a more serious level is like in the past, people might not have had like a TV with a DVD player that could play this movie in full quality. So they just wouldn't get it. And it's like now more people can see it, but also they're not going to necessarily see it, in the full quality. It's like we're distributing it more thoroughly, but not necessarily in full, and like, it's just, I think there's like merit to what Evan's saying, but also merit to what you're saying, Nabil, is like, you are kind of in a way, arguably misrepresenting something if you change the format that it's viewed in, but also for certain people, that might be how they're consuming it in the first place, right? Like maybe, people just are watching everything on their phone and that is like a typical medium for them. Some people might just not want to go to the movie theater anyways.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
So I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
But I think this whole topic like kind of plays into Dream Scenario because of the scene that you were getting into with Michael Cera is like, kind of like providing a narrative to people. That's kind of what the firm wants to do, right? Like present
Mhm.
Well, it's
the
like,
story.
So like one, the big thing they pitch is like Sprite. Sprite's really interested. The doors open on Sprite to do an ad with you where it's you're holding a can of Sprite. People see that, then they go to sleep, and the hope is that when they dream about him, that they'll think about Sprite too, and then obviously buy Sprite the next day. So I guess I see what you're saying, like controlling the narrative. But
Well, also just the like kind of like providing this like outlet for, in this case, like advertising Sprite to people that like wouldn't otherwise be an option. Obviously, this doesn't, spoiler alert, it doesn't end up happening. They don't end up advertising Sprite through the dreams.
but the advertisement through dreams does happen.
Yeah, it does come up, and we can get more into that then, I guess, when we discuss that. But my main idea here, I guess, tying the two together, is that presenting something to someone, via a dream, and that's kind of the pitch that Michael Cera is making, is a lot more impactful than in this universe, traditional advertising might be. And I think like there's kind of a parallel you could draw there with the movie between this concept of advertising him, or advertising Sprite through him, through other people's dreams of him.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a parallel for just like you're putting this idea in someone's head like constantly by maybe like a TikTok ad campaign where someone uses Sprite, but it's not explicitly an advertisement. Obviously, this sounds kind of boomer tier, but that's, I think, kind of like commentary on like social media advertising in a way.
Yeah,
definitely. It's like when Cobby Lame does a product placement in Fortnite.
It's like, everybody's talking about Cobby Lame. He's in Fortnite. That's crazy. Now everybody's thinking about Fortnite because of Cobby Lame. It's like, how did we get here? That's ridiculous. I'd say it's equally as ridiculous as dreaming about Sprite, like.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. So I'm going to say something? I thought I heard something. Okay.
Yeah, I guess we can keep going.
Okay.
So I think what if we went back to what Casey was saying about Michael Cera and kind of
Yes.
Oh, sure, yeah. But with Michael Cera, that's right.
Classic Filmatic tangent within a tangent moment.
Cut. So Michael Cera, basically, as I was saying, cut. So Michael Cera, cut. So Michael Cera. How many times can I do this without and actually continue?
No, don't worry, we're gonna.
So Michael Cera, cut. So Michael Cera, as I was saying,
Michael Cera is right. That's a good joke. Right? No? Okay.
Cut. So Michael Cera
actually
fills the
cut
same
that
role,
out.
like.
don't.
Oh my god. So
cut. Okay, go ahead.
He fills the same role as Nick Cage in like society and pop culture, where people just have this understanding. And obviously, like there was a movie last year, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, that literally like specifically talks about this concept. I never saw it. I've wanted to. That talks about this concept with Nick Cage. You've heard it's terrible?
I've heard it's bad.
I've heard it's okay.
Well, yeah, I want to see it too.
Filmatic,
yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
Summer, the winter of Nick Cage.
The November of we're still November.
Well, it's December now, so Nick I'm gonna repeat the winter of Nick Cage because it
has to rhyme. Or it has to have the letter. Summer of Stiller.
Speak louder.
Sorry, the Age of Cage.
Oh, hey, let's go. Okay.
The Croods too.
Look at you.
Thank you.
What would you define an age as? Like,
well, if
it's
you're
chronologically.
Age of Ultron?
A timeline full of important events that shift. Like an eon. An eon isn't a specific amount of time.
Do you think there was
an amount of time where a lot of similar important things happened?
Do you think that enough things happened?
I didn't even know that. That's
enough time passed in the movie Avengers: Age of Ultron to be classified as an Age of Ultron, or was it
No.
more of a?
I can
Definitively
tell you,
no.
watching it felt like it. Up top.
Oh, let's go.
That was good.
Well, I guess
That
my
movie
main question
sucked
here though
ass.
is how long, Summer of Stiller obviously only took one summer to be released.
So
Famously.
That's a lie, dude.
That is absolutely.
my
It's
favorite
not
thing
a
about
lie.
that. Can I talk about that? Okay. My favorite thing about that, and I've already mentioned this with Justin, but I want to mention it again on the record. I thought it was so funny that people are like telling me. I think Casey even said like in like December. Maybe you were saying it more as a joke, but people like unironically on Instagram were like, it's not summer, right? Like, yeah, I know it's not
No,
summer.
okay.
Like, what am I supposed to do? Like people were like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do? Not do it anymore? Like, just quit. Like,
But I
Yeah.
think the Age of Cage offers
well.
a solution to this. You don't have a deadline,
Yeah.
right? An
Yeah.
age, like Evan
It's
was saying, is
forever.
Until
it's
you're
a
ready
matter
to
of the
move on.
influence that you create.
age is
Jesus. Cut.
Not going there.
Cut.
So Michael Cera is kind of like
Put that one on
no
the
one
other
liked that joke.
podcast.
They were like,
So-
oh, we can't make that joke. Okay.
Put that on the
joke.
secret podcast.
Yeah, okay.
Put it on the. It's just a joke, guys. So Michael Cera. What I wanted to say was, with his character in this, I had seen him in the trailer, and I completely forgot because of how much bad shit was going on in the movie. Like that, I completely forgot that he was going to show up. So his appearance in that scene was like really so unexpected. And Em and I did just like burst out laughing, and I think that was one of like the first moments. What?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were saying, oh no.
No, I did think it was funny, but it was also I had no context for the movie, to be clear.
I went into this completely blind with
That's the
as
way
to
to
what it
go.
was
I
about
knew
at
it
all.
was an-
I
it
also
was a
had
Nick
no
Cage
context.
movie.
That's what I'm talking about.
Mhm.
I thought, well, so I'm sorry. I thought it was like a funny, silly movie, which it is,
Kind of is, yeah.
to be clear. It is very funny, but I also cried at the end.
Oh, it's a
And
good
then
ending.
cried for like 30 minutes after.
We'll get there.
We'll
But
get
so
there.
my point is, everything was just like a complete and total shock to me.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to
But the
go.
Michael Cera moment was a cherry on top for sure.
Yeah. But it was one of those first moments that was like so like again, it like I was saying to you before, Nabil, that it like elicited this reaction from me that like I don't feel like a movie recently has. And I don't just mean we're gonna get to a scene soon that really did this for me. But like it's like whether it's just like a certain like little movement like Nick Cage does, or like a certain line or a certain like cut in the editing. It's like it's very like the whole movie feels like very like visceral experience. So like your reactions to things feel like out of your control. And I thought that was pretty cool. But then as the scene continues, like Michael Cera in his very small performance, literally just one scene in the movie, which as for actors in this movie, Nick Cage and Michael Cera are the only like mainstream recognizable actors in it at all.
Except for
Yeah.
Noah Centineo.
Noah Centineo.
I recognized him
is-
from Black
that is true.
Adam. He was in Black Adam.
From Black Adam. He was in Black Adam. He was in Black Adam.
Anyway.
What
But-
did you guys think
But
of
so,
Noah Centineo?
all right,
I
we're
thought he
not
was-
there yet.
I mean, we're
Isn't he
jumping
like a
ahead.
TikTok guy?
Oh.
Oh shit!
The Black Adam reference,
Let's go.
Oh, it's The Rock. I got
Yeah,
it.
The
But-
Rock plays Black Adam for anyone that didn't recognize him in the
So
movie.
you're telling me The Rock plays Black Adam in Black Adam? Black Adam?
Huh?
I don't
Yeah.
kill people. That's what he says, right? In the movie. He's like, oh no, he says he
Yeah.
does kill people. Wait,
People on the streets are saying,
I do kill people.
kill people.
They are saying that.
Oh no. So someone's like,
But
you
we
can't
don't
kill
have
people, and he's like,
mirrors. We don't have-
I do. That's the line.
Oh yeah.
But may I seriously ask who Noah Centineo is in this movie, as I'm not remembering a crossover
Okay.
between Black Adam and Dream
So-
Scenario.
At the like towards the end of the movie when they start doing the commercial for the bracelet,
He's one of the influencers.
he's one of the influencers who then
Oh,
appears
okay,
in
okay.
Nick Cage's dream.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah,
That commercial's
I
so-
forgot
yeah.
about those individuals.
That makes a
Mhm.
lot of
But
sense,
again, that's great casting, right? For that role,
Yeah.
he's literally like an iconic image of like annoying, like fuckboy actor, like
No,
Yeah,
no,
that
no,
generation of
seemingly, like,
actors.
influencer
Yeah.
type. Yeah.
and specifically because he, as a person, is like very like to some degree real, to some degree fake, like enlightened. And like he like, is like, I read Siddhartha or I read whatever the other book that starts with an S for fun. And like pretends to be like this very enlightened ahead of the time person. So then to appear in this thing where it's like you're now in someone's dream is really fun.
That's
But
cool.
We're meditating, we're spiritually connecting.
mhm.
That type of vibe.
Yeah.
Michael Cera,
yeah.
overall, very good in this scene. I just want to say
So this took 10 minutes. I gotta
obviously
say, it
we
took 10
referenced-
minutes to finish the Michael Cera
to
point.
get. I know. I've been trying
Filmatic
really
is
hard.
back. Filmatic is
So
so
Michael
back.
Cera
We're
is
so
on
back.
TikTok
Maybe the
We're
best
so
season
back.
yet.
Filmatic is
It's
back.
Drover, bro. Filmatic is Drover. We can't even get through the dream scenario.
No, that means we're
podcast.
back. All right.
It means we're back. Maybe it
Yeah.
means we're
We're
back.
so back.
We're so
Since
back.
another-
My
Yeah,
end statement
Twitter-
about Michael Cera
Twitter?
is
Twitter?
that
Was that?
he was really good in the Barbie movie. He was really good in this.
He
Peak
I
season 3.
want to watch the new Scott Pilgrim anime.
Blah, blah,
Um,
blah. Keep yapping.
And he's. Oh my
I'm sure you
God.
censor that, Nabil. We don't want to be responsible
Um,
for advising people to watch anime, right?
Yeah.
But he kills it in this scene as you saw us spoof it in the beginning. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And it also gets into, as we've been talking about a little bit, I think the previous scene with the person coming to his house and threatening his family, and then this scene starts to bring in the more like social message of the movie. And as we know on Filmatic, I'm the woke liberal
Buzzword?
here, and
I
I
think
like
Justin
to talk
called you-
about
Socialist.
Dude, I think Justin
Actually,
called
yeah.
you Mr. Buzzword once, which.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Mr. Buzzword's kind of my gimmick. So I like to talk about that kind of stuff in movies. So I guess I'll start there and just say that that's kind of where that aspect of it starts to come in, and you see that progress also at this point. All right. all right.
No. Thank you for being Mr. Buzzword.
Case the buzzword.
Case of the buzzword.
No.
Buzzword toe.
Thank you.
That
All
was
right.
good. So we've established that Michael Cera is in the scene.
And that he's funny. Michael Cera's funny in this movie and just as a person.
There's also
Yeah.
Kate Berlant from Sorry to Bother You. That's what I know her from.
Yeah,
like,
we did mention.
She
We already
playing
said
kind of
that,
like a very
actually.
similar
And I think
character.
you should leave. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's very
true. She was good in that. Like I love the like kind of just I don't know, just over the top like corporate speak that they do the whole time. It's just like it's pretty
Yeah.
amusing.
I think she's very good in that role. It's like
Yeah.
I think like a subtly like funny part of Sorry to Bother You. I mean, it's like obviously supposed to be funny. It doesn't, I think, like stand out her character as like one of the funniest parts of that movie in retrospect, or like one of the most absurd parts. But I think like the scene in the elevator that she does, and like the scene where they're introducing, the new like workplace, and like the kind of like system they have in Sorry to Bother You is like very similar type of comedy to this scene. I don't know her from
Absolutely.
I Think You Should Leave, but Does she play a similar role in that?
I think she's also in that. Maybe not.
Oh, she is.
Maybe
What?
she's that same actor. I think is in I Think You Should Leave.
And it's the same vibe for sure.
and
Same vibe,
and
yeah.
also Sorry to Bother You.
I can't think of another character that is like that. It's such a specific, like, you know,
Yeah.
fake, like,
Yeah.
professionalism type vibe.
Mhm.
It's good. I think that's like part of the thing I was saying earlier though about this scene. I know we've been talking about it forever, but I think it is kind of like a focal point of like the, like you were saying, the social commentary of the movie, if you will, but also just like kind of like the theme, you know, tying it to the scene where someone breaks into his home. Both of these, in my eyes, are like he is being confronted with a situation where, you know, his credibility or professional livelihood are like threatened. However, he's like continuing down the path because this prospect of like recognition, right? He doesn't want to move his house and like, oh, we can't get all these cameras. We can't put locks. What do you want me to do? You know,
if you look at it like his direct response to his possibly being killed, almost being killed, is to go to a PR firm and sign with the PR firm. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's even then he can't outright turn down the Sprite thing. You know, he gets hung up on this like prospect of like, oh well, maybe I could get Obama to dream about me because Michelle Obama is the link to, you know, this PR firm that's working with him. And it's just, I think like these things where I guess you could even argue the point that Evan made, right, where he's kind of like entitled or arrogant. I think you could argue that it is kind of a character trait he has early on that you're introduced to, but I would say it develops more to become more pronounced in his character as he has to make these decisions about how he's going to navigate being like essentially famous at this point. Right? Because he's willing to, or I guess not willing to, but he's kind of forced to reckon with the fact that maybe he does want to take recognition in another form at the sacrifice of his, you know, perception in other people's eyes. Maybe he's willing to do this Sprite commercial and change his book if he can still get something, because even though he doesn't just want something, right? He wants the book in this scene. He doesn't want the Sprite commercial. I think it's kind of like maybe he does just want something. Maybe he does just start to feel like this perception of like, you know, people see me as a passive bystander. You know, maybe I do just want to be in a Sprite commercial, you know? That way I'm doing something, right?
And then that leads to the next part of the plot, which directly challenges, you know, him not wanting to be a bystander. Is the, you know, the girl who has the dream, the erotic dream about him, who works at the PR firm, where he learns this, and then after this meeting decides to go on a date with her, more or less. And they meet and they go back to their house. And I think, Casey, you know, this seems like you're pretty big on this scene, so I'll let you
yeah, sure. This scene is fucking great. One, I think it's important to mention this is the first dream in the movie that he's been told about in which he is actually doing something. So it's described to him that in the dream, he is standing in the corner like passively, but then actively makes an effort to like in a kind of pretty uncomfortable way, like somewhat unconsensually, but like
it was very dark humor.
Like
I don't know, like
yeah.
Well, I
make a move on her.
I'd say maybe the non-consensual part. I have something like I want to say about that
non-consensual relations.
So if we'll come back to that aspect of it, you know. But
all right,
yeah,
everybody get ready for Darian's statement on non-consensual relations. Go ahead.
Consensual, non-consensual, consensual. But like that's, I mean, I guess like is like what they're getting at there as like the kind of like kink aspect of this
Yeah.
that he's like, oh, I can like play into that, and that's like exciting to him because there's also like the side line of like his wife and him are clearly unhappy.
And his
But,
wife has not dreamt about him. That's another thing.
his
that's
wife has not
mentioned
dreamt
before
about
this.
him. Yeah. Did you have something to say about that?
But I just like I don't necessarily. It didn't entirely read to me that he was like excited. It more like it like in the sense of like to act this out. It was like someone had a dream about him where like he was finally not being a bystander, and so again it was more about like the attention of him like doing something
Yeah.
and being recognized for doing something. But like when it came to like him act like she was like explaining the dream to him, and then he was like, okay, so like what do I do now, and he just like obviously, as you'll explain, it doesn't end super well for him, but like it just doesn't really seem like he actually wants to carry out any of the actions. He just like wants the attention from what came from her having that dream.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the
and
last
he doesn't.
thing, actually. Like he's willing to like
Yeah.
sacrifice his like faithfulness to his wife, his relationships, his credibility, even though he doesn't really want something, just to get something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that shows by him being like unable to fulfill in that way. Like he is unable to live up to this dream scenario of
Yeah.
this woman, because she has to tell him everything to do. She's like, don't fucking speak, like stop talking.
Take the lead.
So she's and they're reenacting the dream, and he sits down on the couch, and she asks him to take the lead. He tries to. She starts unbuttoning and his belt, unzipping his pants, and he lets out a pretty loud fart. And my theater, which
Can't
only
find
had
it. Oh, there it is. Thank you.
our theater that
Like
only
six
had
people total.
we
in
had
it.
like 6 to 8 people. Good reverb fart sound effect, thank you. Everybody in the theater like hilariously laughing because it's like, you expect him to like be uncomfortable, but it like sets you up to think like, because also it kind of makes you want, because of how his wife is acting, it kind of makes you want, like I remember saying to Em, I was like, I want him to like cheat on his wife, and I was like, why do I feel that way? I really did though. In the moment I was like, it kind of seems like the movie's making you want to like root for him.
Mhm.
And it's like so unexpected, like, but at the same time, when I look back on it, I'm like, I should have expected him to like fuck it up in some way, right? Because like he's fucks everything up. Like that's the character they're building. Like, but also like in the dream character, he's like fully acting this out. So then he farts. He has a hilarious line where he's like, "It's natural,"
It's
and it's delivered
He's like, it's just
in like a
nerves.
perfect.
It's healthy.
Yeah, and it's healthy is what he says. Yeah, and it's delivered in like a perfect like Nick Cage voice.
But then he makes this like face
Um,
and like leaves the
Yeah.
the face. He like locks on this perfect like face of like mix of like horror and like fear.
Yeah,
And he's just like
he has great like physical acting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she's like taken aback for a moment, but then continues, and then he comes in his pants.
real.
And
Instantly.
instantly. And then takes his jacket and just leaves. And never speaks to her again, except I think over the phone
Yeah.
later at one point.
Yeah.
And that's it. So that's his first dream that he actually takes action in, and then takes that action in real life.
I'd like to point
and-
out another layer of the humiliation, possibly, which is
Mhm.
later on, like you said, like I think he only keeps in touch with her because of the being involved with the firm. and his wife is
Mhm.
like, there's a small moment where his wife is like, "Oh, who's Molly?" And he's like,
Mhm.
"Oh, it's
Mhm.
just someone who works at the firm," which is true, and I think that
Mhm.
operates on a few levels, obviously. But one level that I'm thinking about now is like, it's another level of humiliation because he's not even cheating with her. He's just, you know what I mean? He
Yeah.
tried to and he
Yeah.
failed, but he's like, it is just
Yeah.
someone from
Yeah.
the firm. Like I don't know. But those.
Yeah.
Yeah, another thing I
No.
wanted to bring up is just like I feel like the kind of act itself of like him reenacting the dream, it was like this weird kind of like almost like exploitation of like Paul Matthews, Nick Cage, like kind of like I don't know, it was like the whole scene was just had like this kind of like two-way like pervertedness to it that I thought was kind of like really interesting kind of to explore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Very
guess that's
well.
all
Yeah,
I
I
really
mean,
wanted to say.
we could talk about that more though, because I thought that too, that like again, like the consent aspect of it in her dream is weird. But then
Mhm.
in the with her, like I didn't say that specifically, I guess, so to
Yeah.
explain, like she's literally like saying like, no, who are you? Like stop.
Yeah. It's
And then but she's like, she wants him to do that, but he again is like, he's excited by the idea of it, but he's uncomfortable with the actions and how he is acting in that dream, because he probably senses like that's a little weird.
Mhm.
So he is being exploited as this like figure, and she probably not even just like the dream, but like is getting off on the idea that he is like this larger than life
Yeah,
figure
he's
that
viral.
she can like manipulate.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole scene is like, I think it really helps build up a lot of the themes of the movie and like this kind of perspective it takes on like, just collective consciousness and like, just cultural events and stuff like that, virality, this kind of
Yeah.
just in the sense of the movie, it's this kind of like image that we see of Paul Matthews from dreams, but it could also equate like I know most people sort of explain this movie as kind of an allegory for internet fame or social media fame, stuff like that, like cancel culture or whatnot. And I think just kind of having this like image that Molly has of Paul Matthews from her dream, and then kind of like it not equating, in the kind of real life scenario was it was just like, really kind of cool way of kind of tackling that theme.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm excited to talk more about that for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think something that I kind of have thought about more recently in relation to this scene is just like asking myself like why, what is the like narrative like purpose of the sexual fantasy being whatever you want to call it, like bordering on like non-consensual or like kinky or whatever you would like to characterize it as, because it is not explicitly non-consensual, right? By nature, like she wants this to happen when she acts it out in real life, but I think it like purposefully is supposed to be uncomfortable, and I think the answer I kind of came up with that I'm liking more is that parallel to these themes of like internet fame and social media are like the themes of how you just perceive not only people but like concepts and situations because of the way they're presented to you, online or not. But in this case, I'll go with the example of online. And I'm thinking about the notion that like Molly in this case has like this fantasy. Yes, in the movie it is a dream, so it is not something that has been chosen by her or sought out explicitly. But people in real life, right, have like fantasies that develop through like maybe watching porn or like just reading about situations that they find like erotic. And when you actually go to produce these in real life with someone, it's not always like as fun as it might seem in concept. And I think that also might be an aspect of it. Again, you could apply that without the aspect of like internet fame. But I think in the context of the movie, it kind of like reads as someone wanting to like do something that they saw in porn, like, and not actually enjoying the way it's playing out, or it just doesn't work as well because what you were perceiving in your dream or in her fantasy isn't really how people act. I mean, you don't even know the person that you're watching or fantasizing about on a personal level. How are you going to know how they would interact with you in an intimate setting? But at the same time, I do think there is like the thing that you're pointing out. I think it's kind of a dual track where it's like, this person's famous, so I'm attributing value to them that I probably shouldn't be. I think that kind of is tied in with I'm attributing value to this idea of like acting out or doing something like cool, in this case sexual, that like isn't really like, you know, what I'm envisioning it to be. Not to say that, doing kinky things is like inherently bad in real life, but it's more so like it's just I'm talking about, the difference in like fantasy and reality and how that is kind of expanded by, like digital media, the internet. Bam.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's
not to discredit what you're saying there. I just want to say, Filmatic, we finally made it happen, right? We've been waiting for Filmatic. All the way back in Tower Heist, we predicted this.
Yeah.
And we're finally here. All right, we're talking about porn on Filmatic. Up top.
Let's go.
Don't.
And I also just wanted to say, separately, you can kind of like interpret it, I think, in the context of dreams. If you want to like really run with the dream thing, right? Like having like sexual dreams or dreams reflecting your subconscious, like sexual desires. You could also take that approach and I think apply the same things where it's like, maybe she is just having a dream and she doesn't really know why it seems hot that this encounter is like blurring the line of consent, but she wants to act it out. And then it's like, it's a dream. It's not real. It's like, in the same way, why is, you could argue Paul Matthews like subconsciously being, I mean, this gets into something I want to discuss a bit later, but if you see these versions of Paul Matthews that are in people's dreams as their perception of him, I think you could kind of interpret them as like a subconscious view that he has of himself, right? So like, I guess my idea here is that why does he want to be viewed kind of as a sexual object? That's something that I think you could kind of also tie into this scene. That is just, I think, embedded throughout the movie is like he really cares about the way people view him and how people value him and like what he's being valued for, stuff like that, right?
There's always this emphasis on what he is doing in the dream, especially in the first half. It's the emphasis is on him not helping out when, in scenarios where people need help. Like I feel like most of the dreams we see are kind of like these almost nightmares. His daughter is like floating off the ground and asking for him to like grab her and catch her and bring her down. There's people being chased or just all these sort of scary scenarios where they see him as this kind of, I don't know, like apathetic or just kind of bystander character.
Yeah.
But then as we see after this scene, it begins to shift for the worse, kind of, honestly.
Yeah, and I want to say I don't remember the position if it's just before the scene or just after, but kind of important in the transition that Evan's talking about is they kind of allude to this like anxiety that he is having about his wife potentially doing shit with this guy who's working on the project with her at her job.
I want to talk about that.
Particularly, there's a phone call where or a text message maybe, either one where she just, says, okay, like good luck. I got to keep working on this project with the guy. I don't remember his name if he has one.
There was a
And it's
specific
kinda
line.
like, oh, it's late. You're still with this guy, you know?
Yeah, and then that prompts him to go talk to Molly. But I want to
Okay,
talk.
so it's kind of a precursor
You could interpret it that way, I guess.
to the. Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't know if it happened after.
but it was the meeting, and then he's in the hotel room on the phone with his wife. He's like, "Yeah, they're talking about Sprite, Obama, whatever." And I noticed in the first viewing shoot, I thought I was certain the first time I viewed it, and I forgot to mention it, that it seemed like she was cheating on him because like you said, like the way that she's talking is very fragmented. At one point, she says like, "Right there," like almost like in a very like sensual way. But the second time I watched it, it sounded more like someone was like, "Hey, come over here," and she said, "Right, I'll be right there," basically. Which I think I felt very intentional. My point is like, the framing of this phone call.
That's an interesting catch.
Yeah,
I think it kind of ties into honestly like the notion that like his actions, you know, him deciding to like go to this person's apartment and act out this like sexual fantasy with her, even though he's not really like having a good time or that into it, is like it's kind of like driven by this like sexual frustration that might have already been in the background, but it's being brought to the forefront by that phone call with his wife, right? It's like planting maybe the seed was already planted, you know, but that phone call like brings that to the forefront of his mind and kind of like pushes him over the edge. And I think that kind of is also just by nature, you know, you mishear something over a phone call, you misinterpret the way someone says something, and now you're having you know, essentially a false perception about what's going on in reality. And I think that's also a common thing with the internet, or a fantasy that you have. Like I'd say the opposite of fantasy would almost be like anxiety, or like a conspiratorial belief, right? It's like you start constructing this idea like, oh, I'm being cheated on, therefore I may as well have sex with a random person in a manner that I don't really enjoy. But yeah, I don't know how deep to go into like the technology aspect of it, because I think it's kind of something that's layered on top, right? But it is kind of also important to like the modern condition that like affects this character and everyone else in the movie. Again, like there's kind of like a disconnect between viewing someone as a celebrity in the case of Paul Matthews, and there's also a disconnect as like viewing your own wife through a phone call at a distance, right?
Yeah. That's really interesting. Okay, so yeah, I guess just to move on with the plot, so we can talk about the other stuff that we touched upon. I specifically want to mention that right after this situation, there is a small scene where he finds out that the colleague from earlier in the movie published the paper, and the paper is about what his book is supposed to be about, you know, his life's work and everything, and he gets very angry. I want to mention that because
intelligence.
Specifically, yeah, she steals his term that he coined.
Yeah.
Which was something he explicitly was trying to
well, yeah, and during the dinner, she was like, "What were you working on again?" And he's like, "Ants," you know, like she wasn't even like presently aware of that. Anyway, at this point in the movie, there's kind of a turn. His presence in people's dreams becomes very violent, right? To the point where students are like leaving. Yeah, look at there. Students are leaving his class. He gets put on leave because they're leaving his class. He goes to a diner, and people ask him to leave, which leads to him getting beat up because he won't leave. Like you said, his own daughter has that crazy dream where he's running at her with a knife. Yeah, awesome. I got a parody.
Fucking good.
By this point, there will be a video of that.
You saw me doing that earlier. You guys saw me. Yeah. So, okay, I do want to talk about why you guys think the dreams become more violent. I guess it depends how metaphysical you want to get or whatever, but you know, we could talk about that later. I guess maybe in the wrap up of the movie.
I just want to ask,
Yeah.
like, I'm thinking my discussion, and you can cut this or not, about this part of the movie might go into just like broader interpretations of the movie. So do you think it might be better to just kind of go through the rest of the events before?
Yeah, I think we would just go through the events so we don't
Okay.
jump around too much.
Yeah.
Maybe
just like wrap up the
Yeah,
last act,
exactly.
kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
But obviously, if anyone has anything pressing to say, feel free to interrupt me. So he gets beat up. His wife gets taken off that project that she got put on, and the culmination of all this is like she tells him that he should issue a public apology. He says no, but he has a nightmare where he's hunted down and killed by himself in a nightmare. The first dream he has of himself, or so we might believe. And so he releases a video, which you saw me parody earlier, I guess. At this point, we'll have, we have recorded.
And if you haven't, go to the Instagram.
Yeah. And so he records this video. One thing I love about this is like, in the moment, you're kind of like, again, like Casey said earlier, like you're kind of sort of maybe rooting for him at this point. Then he does this apology where it's like very sad music is playing. He's, incredible monologue by Nick Cage. He's crying. It's great. It's very powerful. But then it like hard cuts to the next morning while the video is playing. And his like kids are watching it, and his wife is watching it, and they're like, what the fuck is like wrong with him? Like, and then for me, I was like, wait a second. Wait, yeah, maybe what? Why was I like sympathizing with him? For me at least, for a second. Even if it was just like a fleeting second,
Well, can I say something about that? As to like I think we skipped one important. There are parts in the like of him like doing bad things in his dreams and like people starting to dislike him.
Mhm.
There are parts that like do make you feel bad for him. They're still like funny and like also walk that like unnerving line. Like specifically the gym sequence on multiple levels hits like all of those things.
Yeah.
It's like creepy. It feels like it's like being taken so seriously by everyone there that naturally it makes you feel what?
I just can't remember what the gym sequence is.
They have all of the students. Yeah, all the students.
Yes,
yeah.
okay.
So
They
to
do
explain
like
to
exposure therapy.
Exposure therapy.
Yeah.
or CBT, not right? Not
Nope.
not cock and ball torture.
I thought
the
I
other
could-
one.
Cognitive behavioral therapy.
That was
Yeah.
I
That
love
was a
when
different
the
movie we
therapist just
Starts
pulls out a
doing-
picture, just like almost like this
just
like
pulls out his cock.
promotional
and just-
picture of like
Pulls-
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. And he's like, this
It
man.
was so funny.
Yeah, this man is
this
not a
man.
Yeah.
Your
It was
dream-
giving me like
Your
It's,
dreams would have you believe that this man is
wants to hurt
is a
you,
monster
yeah.
who wants to hurt you.
He's
that
a-
Yeah.
that scene reminded me so much of being John Malkovich and just kind of like I feel like Nick Cage's character in this and John Malkovich in that kind of like have this similar kind of I don't know, it's like it's a similar kind of role.
Yeah.
I have
Mhm.
not seen it,
But-
unfortunately.
Me neither, but I want to see
You
it.
should watch. Everybody should watch Being John.
So good.
Filmatic episode.
on my
That'd be
list.
fucking great.
If it's only if
Be
it's a
fucking
double
great.
feature with adaptation,
True.
another Nick Cage movie.
I tried.
Adaptation,
I mean,
oh my
I didn't
God,
try it,
it's
but I
so
heard
good.
someone tried to pirate it, and
Agent
there weren't enough
Cage.
seaters on the YTS site. So,
Your doctor, right?
yeah, my
I heard someone went to putlocker.com. It's on there. That's where I watched it.
and watch it in
Alright.
480p. Yeah, and like buffer
Hey,
every 3
hey,
I think
minutes.
Casey misspoke. That's where
They're-
they're also their doctor watched it.
Okay. So, in the scene though, what I was saying though was that it hits all those marks of like everybody in the scene is taking it super seriously. So naturally, in the audience, it makes you feel like I should be taking this seriously. But also, it is like inherently funny because, as Evan said, they like pull out the picture of Nick Cage. And then he comes out, he's like walking over. Again, it's funny because he looks like a fucking freak. But also,
Yeah.
the way it's shot, the students do have like actual like horror and like tension in their like bodies. But then when everybody runs out of the room, you do feel bad for him. You're like,
Yeah.
he literally hasn't done anything in terms of like in real life. He has not done anything. So,
and at this point,
naturally
he is
you're like,
saying that. He is
So you
saying
would
to
think.
people, well, what did I do?
What did I do? Yeah.
You know, he
Yeah.
goes to the dean of the
Yeah.
school and says,
They're being
I haven't done
brats.
anything,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just in their heads.
Mhm.
It's,
Yeah.
Learned
But we can
experience,
talk
I
about
think,
that more.
is the phrase he used.
Yeah.
Like,
I think there's a
Yeah.
ton to unpack. I mean,
yeah.
I guess just to like wrap it up, they end up vandalizing his car and then he gets mad at them and kind of shouts
Yeah.
the same thing, like, it's your
Hey!
fault, not mine.
Which one of
Yeah,
you
he
did
says
this?
trauma. He's like, that line, M like pogged at that when he was like,
Pogged.
do you remember that?
Could you demonstrate what
When he
pog
was
Yeah,
like-
is?
so people know what
I'm
pog
not
is.
familiar with the
And it's
term.
not fat ass
Soy
white.
facing. Believe or
Believe.
put up.
Let's
So Michael
see.
Cera.
So good. So my what?
I was gonna say
Palm?
instead of
Speak louder.
Dead
Speak
air.
I was just creating a sorry.
louder. Speak louder.
I was creating a gender neutral alternative.
On
On
fat ass non-binary.
yeah.
Okay,
Oh.
I see.
I was
We love our
Pond.
pawns.
But-
Pawns.
person.
Hey,
We
welcome
love
to
our
the
pawns.
Pawn.
We love our palms. We love them. We love our
They're the
palms.
greatest.
Quite frankly, the biggest pun I've ever seen.
So Michael Cera. But I forget what I was saying.
You were talking.
Oh.
You said when he said
Bad too.
when he. You said when he said something. He said something in MPOG'd. He said
that trauma is like a
About trauma.
trend.
Yeah,
Yeah,
trauma's a
see,
trend.
It talks about trauma as a trend, and I think like that plays into things we'll talk about too.
Because I also like he has this whole conversation with the dean where he like they use like more scholarly talk, but then he basically like is saying the same things. But I just think like how like brutal he was, like saying that to them in that way, I think created a strong reaction for me.
Well,
Mhm.
also following that, the PR firm, there's a short scene where
Yeah.
they meet with him and they're like, we're gonna try to get you in with like maybe some like alt-right podcasts, maybe
Yeah.
get you on Joe Rogan
And then
to
he's
like,
like-
you know, deal with the fact
Yeah.
that this video of you saying trauma is a trend came out.
And then he was like, "Guys, I don't
Mhm.
want to be controversial." And Michael Cera is like, "All right." The timing is great as well on the phone because it's just like silent. So it's like, "All right, it's gonna go against everything you just said, but we can get you on Tucker Carlson tonight." Like,
Yeah.
he's like,
But
"Obama
I
is
think what-
Obama still a thing?" Sorry.
I also think there's a hilarious. I just want to sidebar really quick. I think there's a hilarious implied joke. I thought they were going to go explicit with it, where he asks if Obama is still an option when the entire premise would be him murdering Obama, right? Like that is at
Yeah,
this point,
yes,
if Obama
yeah.
dreamed about him, he would just be killing him. But I think M's like point about the delivery, like the difference in like he kind of alludes to, well, kids these days are, you know, they want to feel like they have like some bigger problem. That's what he says to
Like
the dean.
he says
versus,
talking to your friend is trauma. You know, like
yeah,
having a fight with your friend is trauma. Whatever. Okay.
yeah. Versus the way he just shouts it to these people in the parking lot after they, you know, fuck with his car. I think like that directly relates to the let's get you on Joe Rogan like alt-right kind of joke, in the sense that like he's not necessarily that guy. Like he's not that guy that's like trauma isn't real, you're a snowflake. But depending on the way you present, you know, your feeling about
Mhm.
something, you might come off as, you know, I guess, an alt-right individual, but it's broader than that, obviously. I think that obviously directly relates to the whole, like, again, perception, especially like when you are a influential or viral person, or maybe you could just say perception of individuals online. It's very easy to misinterpret the meaning of someone's message, but it's also very easy to misrepresent your own views, right? Specifically emotion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and then I guess he gets kicked out of the house. Also, I should mention during that call you talked about, they mentioned that he's a big hit in France. That's the only place where people actually like him, which is a great joke. And also,
which is like,
And then he
it's
goes
just
to
like,
France.
get there. We'll get there.
Isn't that like directly the next part?
Not yet, right?
more or less.
He's
I mean,
gonna-
there's like one
he's
scene in
already-
between. Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
like, yeah.
Well, no, he's got to do the. I mean, I feel like the
Listen,
theater scene.
Yeah, that's next.
pretty-
And then
Yeah,
he goes to
yeah.
France. Yeah,
It's kind of
Okay.
foreshadowing
Yeah.
what happens after that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he gets kicked out of the house, and he's been told in a prior scene that he can't go to his daughter's play because the parents don't want him there. And like, oh, like we'll take a video for you. Like it'll be okay. Just sit this one out. And he's like, no, it's my daughter. I have a right to go. I haven't done anything, etc. And so he gets kicked out of the house, but and also goes to live in the dean's basement, which is a fun scene, which we'll come back to because Evan was talking about something earlier today with me that I think is interesting about that scene. So I'm gonna write that down. We'll get back to that. But yeah, so then he decides to go to the play anyway. Goes to the play. They try to stop him. Not stopped. He tries to open the door where the teacher from before who told him not to come is there, and she's like, please, like. Then she literally says, quote, respect our boundaries. And then as he's trying to push open the door, and she's trying to push it shut. And the door gets shut, but you hear a nice crunching, squelching sound. And you get the reveal of her finger being cut off by the door closing, covered in blood.
Yeah.
And she's backing up towards the stage. He's trying to back forward. He's like, no, I didn't mean it. She's like, he attacked me, and he's like, no, it was an accident. I just wanted to see my daughter. His daughter is like in horror on the stage. People start tackling him because, they're hearing that he attacked her, and it cuts to black. And then after we cut to black, we get a fade in of his picture from before that was being shown. Just as a yearbook picture, I guess. And for a second, I don't know about you guys, I thought he was dead or something. Like it almost seemed like a memorial sort of thing. But it turns into a commercial. Does anyone want to talk about the commercial? Tackle the commercial.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I feel like, formatted. It is a commercial.
It is jarring.
Within the movie.
Yeah.
But I think it's also kind of formatted in as just, to provide like a representation of what you're watching. It's kind of like a documentary type, maybe like an episode of something you'd see on a news channel, kind of almost like Dateline, the way they talk about the events surrounding Paul Matthews' life and like the specific.
It's like a sponsored episode of Dateline that somehow exists.
Yeah.
And I think it's like partially just there to like serve as like a transition and kind of be comedic. But I guess you could also argue that like, it's an interesting representation of like an ad or just like a piece of media that exists within this version of the real world. Being one that like we're combining like journalism and like documenting of actual events with just straight up like advertisement and subjective opinions, from influencers. But yeah, it basically ends up being overall an ad for this product that lets you go into the dreams of other people. It's like a bracelet. They, kind of provide like some kind of like pseudoscientific within our actual world explanation for how it might work, but not really.
That's important is they don't really actually give any.
They propose pseudoscientific ideas, but they don't really seem to understand it themselves. And they just make note of the fact that Paul Matthews was like a necessary point in the invention of this. And they talk a lot about how he might have ruined for a lot of people the notion of going into someone's dream, because it's like, oh, this, what if this happens again? But they're defending the use of this product because they're going to be, completely consented to if they're going to be in your dream. They're just there
if you don't like the dream, it'll be instantly terminated, I think, is like what they say.
Yeah, they will leave. It's like we're going to do what this guy did, but we're going to do it in a way that's like regulated and cool and kind of like modern.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, hold, because you have to buy the device, right?
Yes.
You have to buy the device to be able to receive it. So you are consenting in that way to be advertised to.
I don't think you have to have it to receive it, though, right?
No, you have to have it just to get into someone else's.
Oh,
yeah, to send it.
Yes,
to send.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But they do also
because he's
say, if we show up in your dream and you don't want us there, just tell us to leave and we'll leave. Yeah. So it's kind of like an opt-in thing, like you're saying.
Yeah. Well, because it just reminded me of a funny joke that they do in it. Because one, I think there is some connection. I'm thinking about it more, but that can be made where they have these like with certain bigger actors, they have moments of like, I mean, Nick Cage throughout the whole movie, but Michael Cera, and then I don't know his name, but Greg from Succession, who is like a big actor right now. It's Nicholas something. Nicholas Braun. He's in the movie. He's the CEO of this company. He's the founder of this company or whatever. But something about like the big reveals like that, like it feels like intentional that it's like a wrestling pop type moment where you're like, oh, I know that guy, like, or like Noah Centineo in that scene also.
Another one of the influencers is the girl from Prey, Amber Mid-Thunder. If you know who that is, she's also
I don't know that. I don't know.
Which is crazy. People on Twitter were talking about it's like, well, she only has like 2 lines, but she's kind of like up and coming, I guess. Anyway,
yeah,
I get what you're saying.
I love how the trailer in itself is kind of just like a parody of like I saw like like that documentary, that YouTube documentary about the Hype House with like fucking Addison Rae, like what are their names, Huddy or whatever. I don't know why I know this shit. It's like against my will, I swear. But like it was so funny. Just like the shot of them all like sitting down on the couch together, like these like influencers. Just it was so funny.
Yeah, I think they explicitly say that there is a house, like a not a content
they
house.
Say it,
case,
like dream house. I think they might say dream house.
Yeah. Where they're all gonna live together and like work on these advertisements.
Like it's clear that like Kristoffer Borgli has a pretty like good understanding of like kind of the current like internet culture, and I think that shows a lot in the movie.
But I think like Casey was saying, sorry.
I was just gonna say the joke that is specifically the way I totally forget how he words it, and maybe I'm just misremembering it, but he's just like, he comes out of a dream and he's like, I was just inside of like a 10-year-old Korean boy. They don't say it. So
the narrator says it. He starts. He lays down. I'm gonna do it right now. And he lays down, puts on the bracelet, goes to sleep on the ground, and they're like, it may look like he's dreaming. He's just having a normal dream or something like that. But really, Kristoffer, whatever his name is inside the dreams of a 7-year-old boy in South Korea.
It's like,
and it's a picture.
The type
it's
of
like a
people
stock image picture of a Korean boy.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think with that, it's like funny just in itself, but also like showing that it's like, what are they advertising to like a South Korean child, that it's like they're like, those are the, I don't know. I think that there's a lot more to go into there also, but we can get to that. Like what you were saying, Darian?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think that the way they use these certain actors kind of as like a reveal that you're talking about, is definitely like intentionally to produce like an effect that mirrors what the characters in this universe would be experiencing, right? When they see that person at the dream bracelet hype house, right? Like they're gonna react as like, oh, I know that guy from something, right? Because they're influencers in the movies universe. And then it's like you kind of get that reaction in real life. Like when you see Michael Cera, it's like, oh, I know this guy. That's funny.
Yeah.
When you see I forget the actor's name that you listed, Nicholas something.
Braun.
Right.
Braun. Yeah.
I don't even watch Succession. Yeah. I know his name.
It's kind of like the personality or like image you have, whatever. That's the thing. It actually doesn't matter. It's whatever perception you have of the actor precedes whatever their role is, in a similar way that these celebrities are preceding themselves in the movies universe, right? Like, which is obviously a large part, I think, of the just thematics of this movie. Like, I hope that's obvious at this point. I feel like we've discussed it in a lot of different ways.
I want to. I think I can elaborate maybe after. I want to propose that the bracelet doesn't actually work. It's my theory.
Yeah,
but
let's talk about that. GMM.
Let's talk about that.
Anybody?
Let's talk about that.
Edit the
yeah, a little animation.
We can make one of those.
Yeah. So
we can get that one.
That's a really cool idea. You guys should
you should work on it.
Wait, yeah, Evan, you can make that, right? All right, y'all.
Yeah, I'm gonna go take a piss. You can work on that, right, Evan? Oh. I'm actually
here. I got another way. Hold up.
Filmatic.
Like that's never gonna happen.
There we go.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Take a little intermission here.
Yeah, we're not taking an intermission. So to continue, he moves to France. The commercial ends, and he's in France promoting with Michael Cera his book that he's finally written. But it's obviously
what's it called again?
It's revealed that he wanted to be called Dream Scenario, but it ends up being called in French, what translates to "I am your nightmare." And
they also have him do a photo shoot with the Freddy Krueger claw, right?
Yeah, because like his daughter or something said that like kids at her school like see him as Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, so it's kind of sad, but basically, in your scene throughout the sequence, you see that he has bought this bracelet and is trying to show up in his wife's dream. Which also I should mention, before he goes to France for the book tour, he talks to her, and he has even like imagines like what it would be like to, you know, like embrace her and like hold her and talk to her, but it's more very cold. And he keeps asking, she's like, "Why do you keep asking me if I'm dreaming about you?" And he's like, "Oh, I don't know," just like that. But clearly, he's literally trying to be in her dreams again, which gets us to the ending of the movie, where it's presented that perhaps he finally did get in her dream, because he goes to sleep with the thing. And, sorry, my bad. The first time he tries, the influencers show up in his dream. Does anyone want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think of the funniest part of the scene is that they just fuck up the ad over and over. But like that was just like well acted out. But I think also there's like, to me, I immediately caught in that scene, like he asked them to leave and they just don't give a fuck. So they're already like betraying this like presentation of the product, or the technology or whatever. I think there's also some details that I definitely wouldn't be able to recall about the products they're advertising. I think one of them is like athletics based, you know, like but I think details about those were also like
it's like shoes,
kind of, like,
and then he's in the dream, he's wearing the shoes, and he's like, "Come on, Paul, dance with me, Paul."
Was there one about like a supplement?
Yes, because so after he's like, "Dance with me," he's like, "Get out," and he doesn't leave. And he tries to punch him, but it's like very.
Like, yeah.
And then the other guy's
like, like, "Hey, don't punch him," or like something like that. He's like, "If you're going to, make sure you take these supplements. Your punches will be super strong." You know,
which is a very small detail, but I feel like it is kind of like, if you think about like a lot of things that are being advertised, it's like material goods, like some kind of like product that you can wear that'll make you also the shoes, right? You'll look cool, right? Or like something you can take to make yourself better. It's not something you put on yourself to change the way you're viewed. It's just something that will improve you. Like, I think it's like a subtle thing that's definitely intentional there.
For sure. But yeah, so then he finally does supposedly get into her dream, and you get this very emotional ending where he lives out the dream that she had referenced earlier in the film, like, oh, if you're gonna show up in my dream, do this. And he does it, like, saves her in the dream, and they walk in, the final line where he says, I wish this was real, and then floats away, cut to black, dream scenario. That's the plot of the movie.
Am I dreaming right now? Dude,
I thought we locked
Connor's
this channel.
like the guy that just entered.
Do you think?
He's here to advertise, dude.
Is this gonna fuck up the...
This is gonna mess up my entire thing.
I wish this was real.
Will
I
it
wish
though?
this was real.
Oh no, actually
Wait,
it's
wait,
fine.
wait.
It's fine. It's just smaller.
Yeah.
It's okay. All right.
Can I also? Sorry.
Wait, what if?
Well,
Okay, hold up.
right, for sure.
What if we cut when Connor's camera turned on, and Connor just does an ad read like in the movie, dude? Because it's perfect timing. We were just talking about that scene. I don't know. I think it'd be funny.
Have y'all ever been?
Can we redo it?
Can we redo it?
Oh yeah, you can just rejoin. Wait, yeah. But our reaction was so genuine.
Yeah, I think maybe it's better to just cut in, maybe record it later.
Oh yeah, it could just cut straight to him like talking, like cut to a close up of him.
Yeah.
Well,
Have y'all ever been hungry? Just fiending for a snack. Well, try wax melts.
Doesn't have a
They come in many different flavors, such as Hawaiian breeze, vanilla cream, summer strawberry mimosa, and many more.
We're trying to get to the end of the movie. Can you please leave? We're trying to discuss the final scene.
Yeah, I mean,
Anyways, Bill, as you were saying,
I was just saying that's
he embraces his wife.
he embraces his wife, and he floats away after saying, I wish this was real. Dream scenario. The end.
Dream scenario.
So,
boom sound effect.
yes, someone here, I'll do it.
There is
let's
one.
talk about that.
Oh, that's just a tear emoji.
Has something to say.
That's just a tear emoji.
I wish this was tear.
Can we film a scene where
Yes.
Nabil is like is fucking pulled off of the ground with like what do you call it, like ropes?
What do you call it?
Ropes.
Ropes.
You know, in a movie when they rig someone up with the wire, what is it called? Wire rigging? I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
What they did in the Matrix. you
Yeah,
know?
wires, I guess, right?
Yeah, we do like a wire rig and we like have Nabil float off and he says,
I wish this was tear. Okay.
Anyways.
I had something to say. I had something to say.
I did, just to backtrack like a little bit, because like when he first has the dream with the influencers, it's in his new house that he bought because he got kicked out of his old house. And in like while he's touring, his kids are like, "What's that smell?" And the realtor is like, "Oh, I think something died." And then in his dream, it like cuts to a dead dog.
Well,
and
didn't
it's
they say like I think they had pets or something like
Keep
that?
scrolling left.
Yeah.
You'll see it. on
And
the
it
source
cuts
or
to a
something
dead
like that.
dog, and then you're like, "Oh no, this is going to be like a bad
Input,
thing."
And then PC.
And then it ends up like the whole thing with like the influencers happens, and he like
Yeah.
wakes up and then has the dream with his wife. So it's just like, I don't know, like a reoccurring thing of just like, you know what his intention was, and like it still ends up like fucked up for him.
Mm-hmm. And was that last part even real in terms of, was it even
Did the ring even
the
work?
dream?
Or whatever bracelet.
Yeah. was that actually him? Like when I guess it brings into more question of like, if someone else is in your dream, are they experiencing that as, was that her? Okay, was that, sorry? It's so fucked.
It's like
Was that her
Inception.
in-
It
that
is like
he was
Inception.
in, or was that his dream?
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that her dream and he was saving her, or was he just dreaming about
Exactly.
being
I
able
think
to
there is a
save her?
theory
Which-
here. Yeah, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, if like you want to think about it like that, like he is technically the one who's floating away, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
And then
she
as
As
the,
his
Passive.
daughter
Okay,
was.
Yo,
and yeah,
I didn't even
exactly.
think
At the
about
beginning
that.
of the movie, his daughter was the one floating away.
Mhm.
So I think that would have to mean that it was his dream,
Yeah.
and that was him like waking up from it.
Well, also,
Yeah.
I think one, you can make a case that the bracelet doesn't even work. You're just laying on the floor
Right.
trying to go to sleep,
Yes.
saying, "I'm going to go into
Yes.
someone's dream and do this." So then you just dream that happened.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think you could also make a case that it doesn't like really matter if the bracelet worked, right? Because there's no like confirmation that he lays down and goes into her dream. He just lays down. And he had been struggling to make this work for a while. So even if the bracelet works, you could just say he just ended up in his own dream. You know, which like has happened before in the movie and was not, presented any differently. Like when he dreams that he's killing himself, right? It to
Yeah.
him. So I think I think that's the floating away piece specifically is so very clearly depicted in the same dream that his daughter has at the beginning, though, who floats away herself.
Yeah.
That I think, honestly, I would argue that like that has to be the intention, because they use specifically these leaves that float away in the background,
Yeah.
and they're never used in any other dream sequence in the movies. In the movie,
Mhm.
singular.
Yeah.
Dream
Never
scenarios.
seen it in the movies before. Leaves.
So that's one.
What are they called? Leaves. They use them in the
Okay,
movies.
let's take a brief moment. Why is Connor here?
I'm sorry I'm late. I wanted to join.
What was so you couldn't join when you promised you would join originally? No.
I didn't think about the time. I apologize.
Okay.
Interesting.
Because midnight is technically Tuesday. So technically common.
Midnight is technically Tuesday. So it's technically tomorrow.
Today.
Today.
Dude, it's like this doesn't.
It's like a dream.
Wait, Casey, I was
It's
watching
basically
this
like-
Maybe we're
the other day.
dreaming.
Teddy Long comes out and tells the Undertaker that technically he didn't win the match against CM Punk.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah,
I'm
so
sorry to inform you, Nabil, but technically midnight is Tuesday. So Connor is allowed to be on the podcast.
I guess Connor, like, since you missed a lot, is something you want to give your general thoughts about the movie before we delve into some theories and some
themes.
Sure. I mean, I feel like
I noticed you weren't
a lot of
laughing a
things
lot during the movie. So I was like,
there were a couple scenes that made me very specifically laugh. A lot of it I was just kind of deep in thought, to reference your
okay, but
mind,
when
I
Nicolas
guess,
Cage
thoughts.
came in his pants
Guys and pies and kumai cheeks
and
in his
farted,
pants.
why was the theater completely silent? Is my question.
I guess the
Oh,
theater being said it was only us in the theater.
Oh yeah, I forgot. You can't laugh if it's just us.
Well, no. I did laugh a couple times, specifically in when he's in like the classroom.
When did
he's
you
like,
laugh, buddy? What parts did you
getting
laugh
there.
at?
I'm getting
Oh my
there.
god.
So in the scene where, like his ego is first starting to be inflated, he's in the classroom with all the students. He's being like, oh, well, why don't we, everybody share their dreams. And it's like going through the sequence of like random students' dreams. The one where it's just like the girl sitting on the piano and the alligators are coming and he like walks over through the hallway and like looks over and then just like speed walks back out of the hallway. I thought that shit was
a pretty funny
hilarious.
one.
It's a funny scene.
I laughed out loud at that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's also like especially funny, like execution, because the previous dreams are kind of him witnessing something fucked up happening, and it's like he's
Yeah.
passively just like there. But then in this one, he
Oh,
takes
shit,
a direct action. Yeah, like he himself is like, nah, fuck that. Like I'm actually gonna walk away this time, not just watch. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
So
I kind of get if you were deep in thought though, Connor, because like on some level, I think it is like, am I supposed to be laughing at this or not? But I also think on a separate level, I was kind of like also, thinking like, oh, there's like so many like deep concepts, not to sound like the Joker here, all right? There's so many deep concepts within the movie about like society and like philosophical like ideas of perception and like dreams. Like, what should I make of all this? That like sometimes I was kind of pulled out, not in a bad way, of the comedic aspects, and I was like, that was funny, but should I be interpreting it on a deeper level? Like, I don't know. But I think what is so good about the movie, and I'm gonna draw the comparison again to Sorry to Bother You. That's why I liked that movie. It's an absurd presentation. I also went into that blind, but it's very obviously, layered with serious ideas and poignant themes about like the real world. I don't know. I think the blend of thought-provoking premise with just like jokes is really interesting, and I think that's how you get these like kind of like mixed message, like I guess you could say dark humor, but I don't think it's just straight up dark humor. I actually think it's like kind of more unique than that.
yeah.
Because the punchline isn't necessarily
It's called dark humor. Liberals, ever heard of it? All right, really giving Joker vibes, Derek.
But I mean, in the sense that I think if the humor was just dark, it would be like the part where you're supposed to laugh is that he's being creepy. But I think the part where you're supposed to laugh is where just like a realistic moment happens within a dark scenario, if that makes sense, right? Like the humor isn't the fucked up part. The humor is like, he farts during this really weird, almost not consensual, like exploitative sex scene, right?
Well, how would you classify, like, for that scene? Something I want to clarify that I said earlier when I said it was dark. I literally said it was dark humor, but like, I think there is humor.
Well, it is
in the setup to that scene, which is like, he's constantly like every dream he's being told is passive, and then she's like, "Oh, you're not passive in my dream," and he's like, "Oh, really? This is wow! I didn't know that. This is not passive." And she's like, and then it cuts to the dream, and she's like, "Who are you? Why are you?" You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's kind of fucked up that it's like possibly not.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it is like. I guess I'm maybe sucking this movie's dick too hard, but I think it does like a little more than traditional dark humor.
No, I agree.
Where at least the performance, like, I think there's a lot of just comedy from the way Nicolas Cage, Nick Cage, is too casual. We're not going to Nick Cage, right? The way Nicolas Cage like performs the lines and the character overall, like, adds another element of comedy, that might be missing if you were just like writing a dark joke. You know what I mean? He adds, like we were talking about, that like awkwardness, the presence of himself as Nicolas Cage, right? Like,
yeah, which
Well,
Yeah, because like I don't know,
I think something
I
don't all speak at once.
Literally, Michael Sarah. But something I was gonna say in relation to like what both of y'all have said. I'll bring in my theater background here.
Jeez.
So basically, I mean, this is also, it's not just theater, but an example of it is in theater. So there are a lot of like absurdist plays, which there are different ways to like explain like absurdism, it's kind of like some people kind of use the term loosely to talk about like things being absurd or like happening without reason, but there is like more of a philosophical like context behind like traditional absurdist work. But a lot of absurdist work is, and I would classify this as that in some ways, um, is tragic comedy. And tragic comedy, again, is another like kind of like a misnomer in that it's not just like tragic things happen and comedic things happen. So it's like a combination of both. It's more that the comedy is like intended to be found in the like tragic moments, and more so in absurdist work, like it's meant to be found in those moments of absurdity of things happening without seemingly having a reason for them to happen. And a natural like human response to that is to find some kind of uh comedy in that, to be able to confront the unknown. So I think when you look at it like in the greater context of the film, it really does work as like that traditional sense of a tragicomedy, um, because uh, you do you find yourself laughing to deal with that like uncomfortable sense, that awkwardness. But even more so, you find yourself laughing, or at least I did, um, in moments where you don't know any other way to react. So that's what I was saying earlier, when it's like it almost happens like out of your control. Like and that was the kind of experience that it brought out of me. So that's how I felt, at least. But
I know Connor had something lined up to say, but I just am going to respond directly to Casey so as to not lose the point here. I think that's actually like an uh, insanely thought-provoking like topic, just in relation to the early part of the movie, specifically the dreams that people are having of him. It's interesting because something that I think we might not have even explicated is that not only is he like a passive bystander in all these dreams, right? But every single one that you're shown, something negative or stressful or scary is happening to the person having the dream, right? And he's simply there doing nothing. And I think it's almost like when you like the scene Connor mentioned, when everyone recounts their dream to him in the classroom, they describe, and when they're describing it, you just see what happens, but they describe something that was really bad for them. And then he is there without explanation. It doesn't make any sense. And everyone else, their response is to laugh. The person that describes the dream, visually looks uncomfortable. They don't really know how to feel about it. But I mean, that's like the reaction they're having is like, that doesn't make any sense. It is therefore like funny when you think about it, right? It's like you just watched a bunch of people die in an earthquake at our school cafeteria, but our professor was just like watching. And then like it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's exactly what you're describing.
And you can sense the difference between like haha random and like, oh, this is like I don't know how to respond. Like, or this is so absurd that I have to laugh. That's kind of like
yeah, Connor, go ahead.
Yeah, which I think like makes the difference between like what I saw this as and like I don't know, like it's like somewhere in between absurdist and like a tragic comedy. Because like like to go for like the tragic comedy, like a contemporary example of that is like the show Wilfred. If any of y'all have seen that, like that's a very like it has a lot of like comedic elements. Like a lot of it is just like the main character is depressed and like sees this character Wilfred that's a dog as a human, and it's like very strange. But a lot of the comedies found like, oh, like he tries to kill himself, but he like messes up because he took sugar pills instead of like actual pills, so he didn't die. And it's like, oh damn, like that's like kind of funny, but like in like a sad way, or like an absurdist, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, or so you're just like like, oh, that dude needs to put this award in his ass to get a superpower. Like, oh, like that's, you know, like that level of absurdist. And this is like somewhere in the middle where it's like the tragic piece that's happening is like part of what makes it funny, but it's not the funny thing. Like, you know, like in like any of these dreams, like where the dude is like, you know, getting chased down by this like weird figure. And Nicolas Cage is just there. It's like not like there's nothing about the fact that he's getting chased down or like that scary scenario that is funny. But it's like this like added on piece of like, yeah, that's scary, but like why the fuck is Nicolas Cage just like looking at this mushroom on the tree? Like it's like a cool intersection between the two that I think makes it a very unique. And honestly, it's like, I mean, yeah, like Nabil said, I wasn't laughing out loud a lot at the movie. And it's not that it wasn't funny. Like reflecting back, like, yeah, I think it was a really funny movie. But it was just like so strange and like hard to process. Like not like yeah, like honestly, like hard to process. Like in a moment like that, you're like, I don't know. I was having a lot more like what the fuck type of moments rather than like, oh, that is just like a laughing moment of funny. Like it's just I don't know. I think it's a cool kind of in between type of energy that stays super consistent throughout the whole film.
Connor bringing up the cum mushrooms in that one scene, very important. The cum mushrooms. They were like mushrooms with cum in them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a
Did we all saw
nondescript
that?
white
Yeah.
fluid that was viscous.
Yeah.
It'd come out of the mushroom, which is shaped like
Nabil,
a
any
mushroom.
thoughts on cum mushroom?
I think
Cum shrooms, if you will.
I don't even have a joke. Okay.
But
okay, yeah, go ahead.
if I may really quickly just add on to
Filmatic.
Oh, you may.
Connor's
Sure.
response, I think it's like what you're describing, and like it's something that would qualify what might seem like a really like unnecessary like fluff line in a review of this movie. And it's like this movie, I think, explores absurdism and the aspects of tragedy and comedy and the way that they interplay with one another. Right? It doesn't necessarily like make that the whole point of the movie. Like I don't think the point of the movie is like, here's my conception of absurdist comedy, right? It's something that it ends up going through just because of the way it was written. But I think it's interesting also just that we're sitting here like taking basically two different perceptions of the movie and like comparing them in the sense that that's a lot of what I think is happening in the movie. The people within the movie are viewing all of these events, and like some people take them completely differently than other people, which I think leads to a lot of the outcomes in the movie. Like M mentioned the messaging of the line about trauma, right? It's like perceived very differently by the students than it was the dean.
Mm-hmm.
And like, not to get like too like insane here, but I think like the movie does a really good job at like kind of immersing you in this exaggerated story to kind of like show you this is what's happening in the real world, right? Like a lot of the things going on are pretty ridiculous if you look at them from a removed perspective. But here's how you can see that to some people it's really serious and to some people it's not. Here's how you can see that, someone's action might appear extremely convincingly one way to a group of people, even though it was very intentionally produced to be the opposite, like in the case of his apology video, and the way that's taken. And I don't know, not to go too wide here, but I think like a lot of that is spread throughout the movie, like the political like jokes about, we're gonna get you on an alt-right podcast, or like the line about trauma itself, respect our boundaries. I think these are all like very carefully selected words and topics, and
well,
it might seem like having a stance or an opinion on one of those makes you this type of person. But I think the movie is kind of bringing into question, like, what is the reality of someone's role in all
And I
of
think
this, right?
to highlight that, like, I know the director in a few interviews I watched talked about part of the reason he wrote this script. One of the idea, like, kind of spawned the idea for it was that in, what did you say he's from, Evan? Norway or whatever? I guess wherever his home country is. A lot of professors were being fired because of views they had online. He didn't say it was like because they're red pilled or anything, which brings me to my next part of the argument, which is like, I think when I first heard that, I was like, wait a second, this guy's like anti-cancel culture. Oh wait, he must be, like you said, Darren, like this kind of person. But I think it's also evident from the other parts of the script that he's not that kind of person. So I think it is possible to be, anti-cancel culture in some regard, or like wary of cancel culture. Well, you know what I mean. Also being,
Yeah, I
not
mean,
insane.
I think we should talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just like the most like applicable to your like direct surrounding life theme in the movie, right? Because like there's a lot of like stuff about like perception and philosophy and how you view yourself, which is like interesting. But I think there's also like this very grounded, political leaning discussion that goes on.
Yeah, like I think something that like specifically made parts of the movie hard for me to understand, but like thinking more about it now, it makes a lot more sense. Is like I feel like specifically regarding like the cancel culture thing, like it wasn't necessarily taking a stance like either direction hardcore, and like if you disagree about this, like I feel like it was kind of trying to like give both perspectives and be like like cancel culture like sometimes is necessary for a period of time. Like it's giving the perspective of the students and the people going through these dreams, being like, yeah, they are suffering, like they're going through these traumatic experiences and having these nightmares. Like I'm sure like all of y'all and like anyone listening has had some sort of nightmare that they've woke up from and like had to kind of sit with and like process and like clear their head for a minute before they could feel better. Like even something that like lasts with you for a long time. And so it gives that perspective of like like in the movie, it's about people that have these dreams. In the real life application, it's like just people that go through these type of situations or like are connected to these type of situations. And then it gives like another perspective of this guy. And like I don't have like a real world like specific example of like an exactly applicable type of thing, but it gives another the other perspective of the person that's like he didn't necessarily have any part in this. He wasn't trying to go into people's dreams and make them like have these nightmares about him or anything. And so he's like, fuck, like now my life is being ruined because of this. And like, obviously then it plays into the ego of it and like his reaction to it because of that. Like, yeah, like it just gives both sides, like him struggling because of something he didn't necessarily do and having the bad part of that affect him, while also like, even though he didn't do anything, the people on the other side are still being negatively affected by this. So it's like, it's not saying like, oh, you shouldn't cancel people because everybody's never doing anything wrong, or you should cancel people because it affects everybody. It's like just kind of giving light to both parts of it, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Buzzword here. I've been saving this. This is like one of the main things I wanted to talk about because like my take on it with like the cancel culture thing is like I think if you're looking at it like a left and right perspective, it's really tough to do that because like there's a warped perspective of how like left and right leaning people consider cancel culture. Because I will say right now, right leaning people do believe in cancel culture and they believe in it when it is something that suits them, and they don't believe in it when it's something that doesn't suit them. And left leaning people also, I'd say more like liberal left leaning people do the same thing, where they are in support of something like that when it is something that benefits them. And when it's something that doesn't, they're not, or at least not as gung ho about it. You see that especially with like, if it doesn't personally affect me, I'm not in like support of that, or like, or if it is like a person I know or something like this, people's like values shift. So I think he's making a point there about like how all of that is like bullshit. But the main thing with that is like, if you look at the larger picture of him in the movie, like how he is lifted into this like like zeitgeist of like who he is as a person, and this phenomena of him appearing in all of these dreams, with it being like something he literally did not, to our knowledge, do anything to achieve that or to like be put in that situation. And despite maybe his own arrogance of being like wanting to like continue down that path, whether it's through like PR or playing into the press or different things, he still was like thrust into this situation. And then the capitalist like machine, again, Mr. Buzzword here, I know, but like, why is the media like picking up on this? What does the media picking up on this mean that more people are going to do? More people are going to be dreaming about him. More people are going to be talking about this. There are PR firms that are looking to make money off of this. Um, so like this whole phenomena is like a way for them to make money off of someone who did not ask for this to happen, um, but is also told by society that this is like a good thing and this is what you want. You want fame, you want money, you want attention. Um, then, when something goes wrong or someone has a view that a majority of people in like the mainstream don't like, or like any variety of things, they may like have maybe a bad view on a situation that, again, no one would literally care or ever ask them about, um, if they were just a normal person on the street, and their word would not have the amount of meaning that has been given to it by this mass of people who are now, for whatever reason, deeply invested in like the actions of this person and of this celebrity, like that we care so much about like what celebrities think and feel, that we put so much weight into like everything they do. And I think the movie is like poking fun at like that's fucking weird. um but then once everybody turns on them, the movie does show, as Connor was saying, like the personal side of that, of like how it probably affects someone in a situation like that, especially someone who like maybe went viral for like a meme or something. Like this has happened multiple times where somebody goes viral for a meme and then gets like exposed for like something that happened in their past before they were like virally famous, or like um but then also like people might have like a valid reason to be upset about that. Maybe it's like personally something that has affected them. um but none of that matters because people don't care about the other side. The only thing that matters to people is, again, the PR firm coming back in, the TMZ, like coming in to make money off of the situation once again. And I think the biggest point of the movie to me is like how celebrity and fame being driven by like this idea that we want that in the world, and that's the ultimate goal of like being a person, is to achieve acclaim by like whatever means possible, um and then being rewarded for that, and then being stripped down for that. Either way just benefits like the machine that you're playing into. Means that like it's a lose-lose situation for everyone, except for the people who can profit off of it and who own like media companies and own all of these things that are building the outrage machine that just continues fucking creating the same shit that we see over and over again. um and that's my take on it. Sorry, that was really long-winded, but
that's something
yeah.
that like, yeah, that's a piece I hadn't like really thought about, but like, yeah, like, cause it, like, like what I was saying and what you reflected back on as well, like it talks about both sides, but the piece that stays consistent is like, the news outlets, like they were putting out, like shows and interviews about when he was like becoming famous because of the dreams, and then they did other segments on when he was, going into the nightmares. Like they still get viewership and like things from that. And the PR firm with Michael Cera, like, like, yeah, like they supported him and he was good. And they're like, oh, let's do Sprite. Let's try to get you in Obama streams. And then once the nightmare started, like, okay, let's switch over. Like, let's do these things. And it's like yeah, like, the actual people, like, they have problems over here and they have problems over here. Like, not necessarily like, left and right politically, but just like the different sides of the issue. But like the capitalist machine of it, as you were saying, is always, it's like, okay, no, it doesn't matter if it's over here, it's over here. We're just going to kind of follow it and make money wherever it's going.
Mm-hmm. And like the personal aspect of it too, of like, again, what I was saying is like, this is presented as something you want. It doesn't even need to be like as much as like a claim or like, but this idea that like there are certain things you need to achieve in your life, or you are like perceived as like a failure either by yourself or the people around you, that if you don't like achieve that, then you are you're like somehow failing or like pushing you forward. But I think like with that, sorry,
so
you were gonna say.
I just want to say, I feel like one thing maybe
say.
that might help you kind of gel things together, and I also am just interested to hear people's thoughts on, is the zebra analogy that he's given throughout the movie.
Yes, I've been waiting to tie this into what Casey's saying and just bring it up in general. If I may give my thoughts on it.
Yeah.
So for context, we actually didn't mention this. He's working in like evolutionary biology or something adjacent to that. It's not super important, but basically he gives a piece of his lecture early on in the movie that zebras stick out. So like, why would they evolve to stick out? This doesn't make sense. And then he explains that, their natural predator, lions, have trouble discerning one from another when they're grouped together. So therefore, it protects them to stick out when they're all together. And this is brought back up in the movie at one point. He is trying to discuss it with the girl that is having these sexual dreams about him. When they first meet up, he's trying to explain to her the same concept. And then later on, during the conference call with the PR firm, after he releases this apology video that went wrong, he looks up at an image of a zebra that's like hanging in his office space or his home. So anyways, that is like laid throughout the movie. And I think I had like a couple different ideas, but like right now, in relation to what Casey's saying, I think I've had my best interpretation of this. And that is primarily dependent on the fact that in the whole kind of, I guess you could say like allegory that's being provided, the zebra is only like one aspect of it, right? The other aspect, however, is the lion. So I think maybe more apparent would be like the idea that individuals are not, necessarily stand out or extraordinary or exceptional when you put them all next to each other. People like Paul Matthews, right? He's just some guy. He just stands there like everyone else. But when you take one of them away from the rest of them and you look at them, they are extremely, they're extremely stark on the world around them, the background that they're standing on. And I think the concept of there needing to be like a predator is kind of solved by what Casey is positing, right? Is like there is an entity that is like seeking to farm, I guess in this case you could say virality or just celebrity, or you could just say there is an entity that is trying to make money at all costs through, controversy and attention,
outrage.
Yeah. And ultimately, if you want to avoid the clause of that, you have to not stand out from everyone else and just exist as a human being. Because if you make yourself a celebrity or a target, I guess by making yourself a celebrity or famous, you kind of are making yourself a target to be exploited by all of these different things. The PR firm, maybe a company that's going to like make a product in response to something you did. A bunch of people that like to, kind of become fans of like violent things. In relation to the French audience that his book ends up having, the altered
or
title
like the
version.
sexual exploitation even like plays into that too.
Yeah. I think, I guess my point here, right, is like you can kind of see it as on one level, it's just an analogy that people stick out a lot more and it puts them at risk when they're alone and when they're highlighted for their individual beliefs and views that you wouldn't otherwise be able to discern, right? But I think also you could kind of take away from that a potential message that is being conveyed on the situation Casey's described overall, right? That the way to avoid becoming a part or a product within this just constantly turning controversy driven machine is to I guess coexist and have or try to attempt to maintain some kind of sense of unity rather than singling each other out or isolating yourself. It is best that you group together with other people as human beings, right? I don't know if that's necessarily the message of the movie, but I you could take that. But I think the overall allegory is there.
Yeah, and I think
think
like
it's-
I
just think it's important.
Well, all you.
I don't know. All right. I was just gonna say in response to that, like, or you're going with that. I think it's important to talk about like after all of that like happens to him, because once he's like chewed up and spat out by it, the only way to like continue forward is to play into like all of those worst parts of like like he buys into like using the fucking dream bracelet. He like the whole like thing in France, like with the book deal, and specifically like posing with like the Freddy Krueger, like in every way, like he's become everything he apparently didn't want to like be and want to be a part of. But at the same time, like the way the system is, that's the only way he could like win. Like, and it shows that he's like truly unhappy at the end, like because the one thing he wants, like seemingly being a relationship with his wife, is now the one thing he can't have. But he has, a little bit of money from the deal. He has a house now. He has like that very little bit of like fame in France. And those are the only options for him. So I think like on a personal level too, it's like just that like your options in life are, in terms of like sticking with like the pack, or that like even if you choose to go outside of that, like I don't know, maybe it's a very like depressing fucking take on it, but I also think it is like a sad fucking ending for that reason.
I mean, I think
because
I think it is inherently like on a surface level kind of like a depressing notion to consider, but I think there's also an alternative way you can interpret just that messaging, which is like individualism is not necessarily like compatible or necessarily conducive to the best experience in the modern world. And something else I forgot to highlight is I think there is intention behind the specific fact that zebras evolved to be this way, in order to survive the predators around them, right? And I think it's kind of like implying that people may have become seemingly more mundane and homogenous, and there's a lot more of us now, and there's more of us grouped together than ever before. But following like the zebra idea, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like there is not necessarily a need to stick out. Like things have come to exist this way for a reason, and by trying to defy that, whether it be for ego or because there's some kind of like temptation dangled in front of you that you can make more money, that doesn't necessarily like mean that that's a good thing to do, right? And I also think with what you're saying, it's insane at the end of the movie, right, to consider that like he's gone down this path somewhat in a like coerced manner, I think, right? Like there's parts where he's not sure about continuing to make himself more famous, but he ends up there and all he's left with is kind of like, here's an ad for a product that you can now afford that will make you better. Or now that you have money to buy this bracelet, you might not be able to do what you want, but you can like dream about it. Like, right? Like you can get whatever you imagine if you can obtain this item, like that we made
You're
out
being
of
sold the dream of it.
Which ties into the philosophical, I think, part of the movie, if you care to look at it that way, which is like, A, does he control the dreams? B, if so, does that mean dreams? Because like there is a philosophy. I tried to read up on it, and also based on what little I remember from philosophy class, but like there is a philosophy that dreams are not just like, if you consider yourself to be conscious during a dream, then dreams cannot be imaginary because you're conscious in the dream. That makes sense? Which it gets very dicey, obviously, and there's like a million different ways to look at it. But I don't know if you guys had any thoughts about that, like metaphysically, like, because I think there is some. Sorry, I just want to say, like, I think there is some, like, you could kind of maybe hinge it all on the, if you had to pick one like bit of proof, like the dreams do seem to become violent when he becomes violent in real life, you know?
Yeah, I think like there's like definitely a direct relation between that and like, I mean, you could argue, right, just outside of the movie that this applies, but like within the movie when the students are having these violent dreams, or like just the people in his life are having these violent dreams, and become afraid of him, or his wife's coworker doesn't want to, be associated with her anymore. Um, as we said, he continually says that it's not his fault. He's not choosing to do this. But the experience for these people is very real. To them, it is just as real as if it happened. And that's not just, like spoken within the movie, but the way it's presented to you, right? Like we watch him graphically murder his students. And that is what they are consciously experiencing during these dreams, right? I think you could just like use that as a justification that someone's perceived experience is like equally valid and real to consider in something. And like that's kind of like highlighted, I think, through the thing you're referencing, but also like on the level of like his influence over the nature of the dreams. I think there's like, I mean, I don't want to like go too far off what you primarily said, but like, I think there's a lot of evidence that, his subconscious character developments are influencing the nature of these dreams, and therefore, the way people are perceiving him. I think you could also say maybe these are the ways that he wants to be perceived. Maybe he wants to be perceived as a more sexual object because his wife's not dreaming about him, and that like there's like maybe a chance that she's cheating on him now. Therefore, that scenario is presented. And afterwards, he feels like very disempowered and fails to, have any semblance of like empathy for the situation he's in, he becomes frustrated and angry, but he can't outlet that. So then people begin to perceive him, as a violent person, someone that, they should like fear. I don't know. I'm kind of like maybe presenting like two different things in what I just said. But I think there's like a lot of stuff to be unpacked there that is not on the like grounded social commentary level that is interesting also. And I think you could even tie it into the social commentary if you went deep enough. Like one concept that I had, for example, in this discussion is like, if individuals are compelled by one reason or another to subconsciously want to be, sexualized or put into a certain sexual position, then they will therefore, in their conscious active life, behave differently to obtain a certain outcome, which then might explain why the fucked up systems we're living within exist, right? Like, if people have the fucking desire to, establish their, their accomplishments and their reputation to a certain degree, then it will cause them to do shit that is not necessarily beneficial to them or the goal that they have, right? Like,
yeah.
It's like Connor's in a bit of a dream scenario.
Yeah, that's yeah. I actually I just took a picture of that.
I did too.
Okay.
God, no.
So
I don't know. I think like that concept.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to make a stupid joke.
No,
yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, please, for the sake of comedy.
For the sake of wow, that sounded so.
I was going to say this also adds evidence, credence to what Darian just said, because Darian just changed Connor's perceived reality. The joke is Darian put Connor to sleep. The joke is
Mr. Snooze over here, Mr. Snooze and Mr. Buzzword putting Connor Clark to sleep on this.
Go ahead, Em.
I was just gonna say, like, I think I'm not entirely sure how it fits in, but like in some kind of relation to that, like obviously I would say arguably the last dream that he has is the dream with the best outcome, that is like the most positive. And it's like, even then, like obviously not a win for him, but is like only after he has like can basically like, it's mentioned that like everybody else has stopped dreaming about him. He's like mostly fallen out of the public eye, kind of just a regular guy, except in France. And like as he's like by himself, he like finally gets this breath and like this like breath of like fresh air where it's not like a horrible, terrible thing happening, but it's also only happening to him. Or like he is the only one that has him in a dream where he's not creating a negative or neutral outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's like oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it's like
you snoring, Connor? What the fuck was that?
Kind of like also what Em just said is like further evidence of like the kind of maybe you could say message or just idea that's being portrayed by the movie, where it's like only then can you determine what you actually want that is best for you once you have kind of just become an ordinary person that no one really cares about. I think the piece also I just wanted to say about his fan base in France is like, I feel like it can kind of, in a way, like when we're discussing this specifically, also be disregarded, because I don't think it's supposed to be that he remains famous necessarily, right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I think that's all. Honestly, I kind of just took that as like it was thrown in there as like another one of these like niche like commentaries about like modern culture, especially online, where people like fantasize and worship like fucked up things. I kind of took it as like that. It kind of felt like a short like satire of maybe like true crime people, like like these people are really into what you did, but no one else is because it's fucked up, like.
Yeah.
I think to tie this general discussion around something Evan brought to my attention earlier today was that there's at least one, if not a few scenes in the movie that I think you could speculate aren't real and are either, probably dreams. Specifically, Evan, you mentioned that the director said that
There was an interview. I can't remember the source of it off the top of my head. I should have wrote it down. Maybe I can look it up really quickly before. But it was, just someone interviewing Kristoffer Borgli about the kind of dream aspects of the movie and
Kristoffer Borgli.
Yeah, Kristoffer Borgli already from Sweden. But Kristoffer Borgli is talking about, how he himself has practiced lucid dreaming, and the person in the interview brings up I can't find the source, so let me just get to what the questions are. Maybe I can find it later and we can source it.
Yeah.
But the interviewer asks, keeping a dream journal is supposed to be helpful for learning how to lucid dream. Do you have any experience with lucid dreaming or astral projection? Borley says, lucid dreams, yes, and I have sleep paralysis a lot. I have weird out-of-body experiences when I dream sometimes. I've been researching lucid dreaming a bunch. If you see the movie, there's hints about certain rules of dream logic that are subtle, but if you know them, you know that there might be areas of the movie that might not be real. And then the interviewer asks, I know there's a rule about looking at your hands and that clocks and light switches aren't supposed to work in dreams, or that's, just kind of a phenomenon that's been kind of recorded. And to which Borgli says, you actually said one of them. There's a scene. When you see it again, you will notice. And yeah. So
Evan and I were speculating like which scene off of our memory was there something like that, like specifically I remembered, at least I think I remember.
Light switch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
the light switch.
The light switch. And also I think in that same scene, if not maybe it's a different one, they show a shot of the clock and it's not moving.
Yeah, I'm not sure I remember that part, but yeah, there is this scene after Paul gets kicked out of the house by Janet, and he is spending the night over at, what is it, I guess the dean's house.
Yeah.
He's offering his basement as a place to sleep for the night. And yeah, there's just this strange scene where he's on this kind of cot on the floor looking up at this iridescent light that's kind of, he has that like electrical buzzing, and he's trying to sleep. He tries to flip off all the light switches, but for some reason these lights above him just refuse to turn off, so he has to sleep with this, this light going down on him, and we hear the sort of buzzing of the electrical buzzing of the light kind of grow stronger and stronger until it cuts to the next scene.
Yes.
Which is honestly a great it's great metaphor for the what's going on in the movie, right? This light's being shown on him and he can't seem to displace it.
True.
But also,
I didn't even think about that aspect. Yeah,
it's kind of like the nature of a dream that you might have if you were in his position, right? Like you're having some kind of like indirect reflection of what's going on, right? I can't seem to like get this light off. Like I just want to, sleep. I just want this privacy and comfort for a moment, but there's no way to get it. I think, that's also making me wonder, is there explicitly one scene where it might not be real, or is it possible that there's others in the movie also?
It's possible.
I think
it seems like he said.
Yeah.
It just seemed like he said from the interview that was the only one the interviewer had guessed among those couple things.
Yeah, I for one perceived the movie like parts of it definitely could be like not exactly what happened. But then again, that's the whole point, right? Is like the entire thing is questionable, right? From the get-go. Fucking wraps around itself.
It's like we have this is a literary thing, right, Casey? An unreliable narrator or whatever.
Yeah. Do you think the come farthing scene is real?
Well, I actually wanted to question that scene specifically because that's the only other scene in my memory where they focus at least 2 shots on a clock and a cell phone. Before he leaves the hotel to go to her apartment, he keeps looking at the alarm clock. And it's like super late, and I'm wondering,
what if it's just the same time?
Yeah, and it's also around the time that he uses his phone to like communicate with his wife, right? Because it's right after that call where he thinks she's cheating on him. I wonder if that did happen, and it might be evidenced by the fact that this girl never says anything that jeopardizes their professional relationship.
And directly after he leaves the house, it cuts to him in bed.
You're right. And you know what else, actually? His wife, when she says, "Who is Molly?" she references a specific set of text messages that were sent to his phone, but they're not about meeting up at her hotel at 4 a.m., which I would say surely would spike the interest of his wife more than it does.
It would have been much more, bigger.
Yeah. And she also says, "You never mentioned this person." You know, I think it's like kind of alluding to the fact that maybe he just had this weird interaction with her in the elevator that he felt was kind of tense sexually. I mean, he's the one that makes the initial comment to her like, "Oh, I hope I'm behaving in your dreams, haha," that's kind of sexual in nature. She doesn't allude to that on her own. And then it's only from his perspective that you see her side glancing at him in this meeting. Maybe he just misinterpreted that, which led to this fantasy in his head that maybe this girl's having a sexual dream about me.
Yeah. And because he's so insecure, it ends the way it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be pretty interesting to rewatch, just like kind of focusing on like his subjective lens,
Yeah.
I'm sure we could pick up more if we think about it more. Just like how when you were saying earlier about the phone call, how what Janet says in that phone call when she says there,
That's what I'm saying. Even in a second viewing, I've already had
the perspective.
I've already noticed so many things. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
I feel like it would kind of piss me off to look at it and be like, it was all a dream. Though.
No, but
it's just severely ruined.
But I feel like that's what's so good about the movie is like it's not Christopher Nolan.
Feel that way.
It's not Christopher Nolan where it's like, oh,
that's the point.
Yeah, it's not the point. It cannot be the case. Like, it can go either way. It was not made with the intention of people are going to realize later like this wasn't real. It's just like, oh, this couldn't be. This might not be real. Like
I think honestly, the whole movie in a really good way that kind of how I'm reflecting on it now doesn't necessarily have a clear intention in regard to like any of the stuff we've discussed. I think it presents like these like kind of like individual like jokes or absurd scenarios that have relevance to the real like modern world and life, and they're kind of stitched together in a way that like you can take a lot from about cancel culture or about the meaning of dreams and like the significance of that experience. But I don't think there is like, this is what you have, like, this is what I want you to take away from it. And I might be wrong, obviously, but I think it's kind of just, it's better because of that. I think like there are some things that are just being offered as like funny and interesting kind of satires of the real world that happen to be written really well into the larger plot. And maybe there is meaning there. Maybe the meaning in those aspects of the movie exists because, someone was compelled to place them together. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be intentional direction that they chose. It could just be like something that resulted from them associating these concepts,
Yeah. like the very nature of the movie is such that no matter how you perceive it, it's so crazy. It's like it's just like I think it's better, a better sort of film in that. Okay, maybe this is blasphemous.
No, I
I
mean,
don't know, like yeah.
I don't know, dude. I'm not trying to like ride the fucking movie too
Yeah.
hard, but like even after this discussion, more so,
Yes.
I'm starting to feel like maybe just coincidentally, it is like one of the best movies. At like, I mean, there's no way to describe it. I guess the best way I can is specific to this movie, and that it's like the narrative about dreams and all of these related topics that are tied into the narrative, and specifically the way that they're presented to the viewer and the reason or the lack thereof that they're presented to the viewer. They have like the associational like interest to you that a fucking dream would.
Mhm.
Like it is like an amalgamation of different experiences that you've lived that surround you that don't necessarily cohesively provide one message, right? But do reflect things that are poignant and relevant to you, whether that be your emotions, your behavior, or like the position that you have in the world. I don't know, dude. I think it's like actually like the way I think about it, it's kind of just starts to like fold in on itself
Yeah.
how you could conceptualize this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just kind of sad. Like I don't think the movie's doing that well. Obviously, the box office is a much smaller movie. I don't see a lot of people talking about it online. You know, it's kind of I don't know. Hope more people watch it.
Yeah, I've heard like nobody talk about it,
Yeah.
which is sad. Is it like a big budget? Like if it doesn't do well, will it be a flop?
No, I doubt it. It's
Do you
got
know?
that big of a budget. Let me try to look it up.
Yeah.
Sure.
This is a complete
as far as even
speculation.
actors go, the budget has to be pretty solid.
Yeah.
Well,
Nick Cage.
The
will-
online estimate is $10 million budget.
Oh, it's nothing.
Okay.
completely
So,
speculatively here,
Says
harkening
it's $6
back
million.
to
Oh, that's not good.
what is the title of the
Yeah.
movie that we watched, Nabil, where Nicolas
Dream
Cage does
scenario.
not speak?
Willy's
so
Willy's
upset that-
Wonderland.
Willy's Wonderland. Harkening back
Yeah.
to the interviews for that movie, Nicolas Cage was like, I'm going around finding cool ass scripts that I want
Yeah.
to be in, and
Yeah.
I'm just
Mhm.
paying for the shit that they can't afford. So maybe that's kind of
Yeah,
what happened.
wasn't that movie just like a student basically? It was just like somehow
Oh,
got it,
dude, yeah, it was they
Yeah, it was
uploaded
just
the
some
script
random
onto a
fucking kid.
website
and he found it.
for prospective script writers, and he was just reading through them, and it caught his eye, and he was like, "I'm gonna make this happen, but I have to be the
And
lead."
he added so much to that movie because it's like a
Yeah.
fairly shit
Yeah.
movie. It's shit script,
No.
but like we're watching it and we're
But
like,
it's
is-
purposeful,
The script is
right?
terrible.
yeah.
Because he could have made it like his other movies if he wanted to.
But I'm just saying, it was so crazy. I remember when we first watched it, we were like speculating if he was an alien or not, trying to theorize like why he was doing certain things. It was awesome.
Let me just say, for the Filmatic viewers, Age of Cage is gonna be crazy. When we watch Willy's Wonderland, I'm
Age
so
of-
fucking excited to talk about that movie.
Dude, I
Ah.
think honestly, it's a fucking ridiculous comparison to make between this movie and Willy's Wonderland outside of Nicolas Cage. But like, I'm not going to directly try to do that. I just think that it is kind of apparent that at this point in his career, following like Willy's Wonderland, this movie, that I think he just is drawn to scripts probably that are, like thought-provoking and kind of like weird. Like they'll make you maybe want to think about the movie deeper, but at the end of the day are just funny. And I think, as he mentioned in an interview about this movie, he's using this personal experience of becoming
Yeah,
like
that's what I
kind of a
wanted to talk
meme
about.
joke
Yeah.
actor. Yeah, I think maybe that's why he wants to be part of these movies, is because he knows he'll be able to play that role well on like a meta level of I'm Nicolas Cage. People will think this is ridiculous. But also like he's experienced that. Like he's experienced being in this position where he's intriguing for no reason when he's just trying to be a guy in a movie that doesn't have a deeper meaning.
Just to clarify what Darian's saying, like in almost every interview I've seen for this movie with him, he's talked about the reason he took. First of all, he said that he's only read 5 scripts in his career where he read them and instantly signed and like knew he had to make it no matter what the pay was or anything. This was one of them. I don't remember.
And we know Willy's Wonderland was another one.
No, it's not actually. He listed them.
It's not?
It's
Okay.
not. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was adaptation, Leaving Las Vegas. I don't remember all of them, but Willy's Wonderland was definitely not one of them.
Listen, not to speak for Nicolas Cage himself, but effectively that is what he did with Willy's Wonderland, because no one even asked him. He just saw it and was like, I have to do this. I'm gonna fucking fund the entire movie. Like
It's awesome. Okay, can we solidify Filmatic viewers can expect the Age of Cage? I know we've got other movies. Age of Cage.
I'm not gonna. We're not gonna let it.
It's
not gonna theme the entire season like Stiller did, but it is gonna be a little arc. Yeah.
It's an age. It's an era. It's defined by the Nicolas Cage movies, but not dependent.
And
on
as
them.
I think Connor said earlier, age is really just a number. So
yeah,
watch Mandy.
Yes, I want to see Mandy. Connor, what would you say?
Connor, you were talking about the 1313 Gambit, right?
Stop.
The 1313?
The 1313 bargain.
Oh, I fucked it
is
up.
the words he used.
Stop. So what I was saying, in the interview, he talked about everyone's kind of seen a version of the viral video from like 10 years ago or so at this point, where it's like Nicolas Cage loses his shit or whatever. It's just like a 5-minute compilation of him having his like angry scenes. And he talked about like how terrible that felt as like an actor, that his career was being reduced to like these little moments without any context of the actual film. And he's like, something he had to he's constantly grappling with, and he thought that he could put that energy into this character, which I think is pretty evident. But yeah, that's all my notes.
I think a lot was covered.
Yeah,
Dream scenario
between Mr. Snooze and Mr. Buzzword and.
Dude, there's a good, I feel like framework here that someone like right now could convince me that I am just in a dream.
Yeah.
Like there's so many like layered aspects of this dude.
Yeah.
Connor appearing as we talked about other people randomly appearing in someone's dream, okay?
True.
Even the fucking use of the word snooze and buzzword feels like some kind of like fucking alarm clock sleep analogy that you guys did not intend when you used those words, alright? I feel like I'm losing my mind.
It's awesome. Alright.
All right.
Do we do final thoughts?
Final thoughts. If anyone's made it this far.
Plug? We need to do plugs.
Well, first, let's do final thoughts on the movie. Okay.
Okay.
You want to do? Should we start doing ratings on Filmatic? You guys want to do that? You guys want to start doing ratings?
I think. Oh, dude, season
ratings
6
are just a
ratings?
number.
True. Ratings are. They're like.
Are we doing? We sometimes do letterboxed ratings because we.
I'm on
I feel like
Letterboxd.
we have done ratings before.
Follow me on Letterboxd.
You're on Letterboxd?
Yeah, of course I'm on Letterboxd. What am I? Come on. I was on Letterboxd before.
Dude, I post unhinged shit sometimes.
Do you have like a Filmatic reviews list?
I've been posting
That'd be
fucked
fun.
up reviews on Letterboxd, dude.
Not a bad idea. I guess look below in the description for a link to all the Filmatic episodes, movies.
That'd be fun, like just a log.
Yeah.
And then you could link like the.
Well, if you follow me on Letterboxd, you'll see I
specific
log
podcast.
for the last like 3 years. I've logged every movie I've ever seen just in the diary because I think it's cool to do. So.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so
that's your plug.
That's my plug.
Final thoughts.
Final thoughts on the movie? Fucking awesome. I think a lot of people are underrating this movie because they're only seeing the surface level of the script. Bo Agrawal, you know, he only gave it a 3.5 or something. I don't know if he rated
Cringe.
I don't know. I agree with some of the points he made though.
No, yeah. What did he say?
I didn't see
I don't know,
his.
but
What's up?
Sorry, what was that?
Shout out,
Wait,
shout
what's-
out
your
Mo.
video for that part.
what did he do?
He pulled out a gun.
Okay, I think people are underrating this movie just a little bit. I'm not saying, I understand not everyone is on the same exact wavelength as us, but I think realistically there should be some sort of Oscar for something, whether it be writing or Nicolas Cage as actor. It's kind of fucked up that it's not going to get any recognition. So that's my thoughts.
Another thing
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Love the 16 millimeter look as well.
Yes.
Shot on Ari Flex.
We didn't even talk about it.
Okay.
Or we don't need to.
Oh.
No, I'm not interrupting. It's just saying, Evan, you're very correct.
Yeah. We didn't even bring up any of the
technical
kind of cinematography or technical aspects.
Should we talk about that real
quick? The look of the movies are really nice. I feel like it was especially noticeable right in that beginning first scene. It's looking nice and crisp.
And the cutting. We didn't even talk about the editing. The editing, I love, for example, I think a great example of this. It's done throughout the movie, but my favorite is when he's at the bar with the girl and he gets up. He has an awkward moment. He's like, I want to get us a drink. And he gets up to get the drink, but the editing is done in such a very specific way where it feels very almost, I could see myself realistically, it's my own perception of when I get up.
It
and
cuts
I turn,
12 times.
Yeah, it's he gets up, cut,
12 times, right?
True.
I literally, I don't think it was bad. I was just I laughed. It was another situation where I was just what was that? I don't even know. And I think it was effective though for the.
I think it literally is about perception though. It's that's probably your perception becoming blurred in certain situations,
There's a scene when Paul tries and I guess kind of fails to comfort his daughter after she has a nightmare about him, in which, I think we brought it up earlier. She's in her bedroom and she sees from this kind of hallway in her bedroom, Paul rushing towards her and attacking her. And when she's bringing up the dream, or I don't even think she necessarily brings up her dream, but when Paul is kind of trying to comfort her, there's a shot that they kind of insert from the perspective of this kind of hallway looking into the room, I think. Or maybe it's the other way around. It's just looking down into the hallway where in her dream, she, that's where Paul was and where kind of, he jumped out and scared her, which I thought was an interesting addition.
Rolling, so.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Well,
should we just keep going?
Yeah.
Should we preface that we got cut
Evan,
off?
do you have a Letterboxd rating?
I'm not gonna have video for the rest of this, by the way, listeners and video people. All right, go ahead.
Technical difficulties, but enjoyed the movie. I'd probably, I guess, just to give it a rating, I think I gave it a 7.
Nice.
Maybe a high 7. If I'm going Fantano scale, I'll say a high 7.
All right.
Okay.
My final thoughts. Oh, yeah. My final thoughts. I would say if there was justice in the world, this would get a best original screenplay.
Let's go.
Nom. I think it's a fucking
directing, maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like the directing was really well done.
I think Nick Cage, it's not gonna happen. It would be great if it did. Best actor. It would be cool.
That's true. Yeah, this definitely was one of the better Nick Cage performances that I know of.
Maybe it would be. It's so unique. It really is. It's so unique to him. In a lot of ways, again, to bring up that movie from last year, even though I haven't seen it again, to be fair, I feel like it probably does in a more artistic way what that one was trying to do in some ways, playing on himself as a character. And there are so few other actors who are able to do something like that, but then not make it like a gimmicky, like it feels genuine and like, and everything we talked about this whole review. He's amazing. It's really great. Michael Cera. So Michael Cera, best supporting actor. But no, I think like the screenplay is like one of my favorite fucking screenplays. And I really like themes of the movie that we've talked about. And I think there's so much more to think about and see over time. I definitely want to rewatch. My rating would be a 4.5 letterbox stars.
Yeah, that's my rating.
Hey.
Thought it was good.
Nothing else? What's your
I
rating?
feel that.
What? How
don't
many
have to do
out
the
of
Out of
numbers.
5 stars.
what is out of 5?
Out of 5 stars.
4.
Okay.
Okay, Kana.
I'd probably give it like between a 4 and a 4.
You cut out, so it sounds like you said 4 and a 4.
A 4 and a 4.
Sorry, I'd give it like a 4 or a 4.5
Okay. Darian,
between the two.
final thoughts.
I think that if you're like interested in watching this movie, it's something that can be thought provoking and like, have a lot of meaning derived from it. But it's also something that you can just watch and will be entertaining.
True.
It'll be funny. It'll be kind of emotional. I'd say it leans towards the funny side of things for most of it. So I think that's cool. It serves both purposes. I don't really think there's anything wrong with the movie that's glaring or annoying. So I feel like it's hard for me to, say anything below 4, but I'm also, because of that, almost wondering on my own rating scale if I would just give it like a 5 because I don't really have any problems with it. But overall, I think like it's 100% worth checking out.
Yeah.
One of the best, if not the best, Nicolas Cage movies you could
And
watch.
one of the better movies of 2023, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say it's
yeah.
already probably my favorite movie of the year, but I have to see the Emma Stone movie. I forget what that one's
Poor
called.
Things.
Oh
Dude, it's not coming out until like the 21st.
I'm thinking for this Oscar season, we watch all the movies and give our own picks.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yes. Let's go.
Sounds good.
So we have
Should
that.
But
make
yeah,
an Oscars episode and then just shit on the Oscars the whole
Age
time.
of Cage, the Oscars. First Filmatic Oscars episode would go crazy.
Yeah, we have a
It'd
lot
be like,
to look
can we do a
forward to.
live stream?
yeah, that'd be
Live
sick,
stream.
yeah.
We
Live
like
stream,
get
take
drunk.
drunk, upload it.
Yeah, we have done a
We
live
get
stream
champagne.
before.
Yeah. Drinking game.
But yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's
if you
definitely-
win,
Oh, sorry.
you get to take a shot.
If you're
Shots for the
predicting
prizes.
Does
Yeah,
anyone when Oscar nominations come out? We'll look it up and because
I feel like it'd be relatively soon.
there's probably
right?
a lot
Isn't
of
it
movies
usually
we need to watch.
Golden Globe noms just came out.
Yeah, like I
True,
give a
so
shit
yeah, I
about
guess
the
I think
Golden
Oscars are
Globes.
soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
let's
Filmatic
wait. Do you
Golden
guys want to
Globe
talk about?
stream.
You guys want to look over those real quick?
Yeah, you
right
can.
now.
Yeah, pull them up before Connor falls asleep.
Let's see.
M's also falling asleep.
Golden
Bill, should I
nominations.
finish what I was saying for the editing, or are we just gonna leave this like as
Oh,
a
no.
like a natural flow?
Oh no, you should.
Maybe
finish what
just
you
drop.
said.
Yeah, drop what you finish because Evan's still looking it up. So just look.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I don't know where I left, but I was final comment. All right, just edit it.
You said it was
I'll
one of the
cut that
best
part out.
movies. You were giving your rating. You're like, oh, it's
Yeah, I'd say it's one of the best movies that I've seen.
okay.
Sorry.
No, that's funny.
Yeah. Right.
One of the best movies of the year, in my opinion, if not the best. But I think like if you think the movie sounds kind of like weird and like it's gonna be some kind of like, fucking M. Night Shyamalan, Inception tier movie, it's not that. It's funny. I guess the only problem you might have is like being uncomfortable while watching media. But I think if that's the case,
Which is
you
surprisingly
probably have a genuine problem on a larger level with like, approaching uncomfortable things. So
I'll go
I would-
further. I'll say you have a problem, and you just have a problem if you like can't.
Yeah, something's wrong.
No,
with you.
seriously. Like, okay, people are like, I can't watch The Office or like Nathan For You because it's cringe, and I feel like those same people wouldn't like this movie, perhaps because it's too cringe.
That's fair.
Am I the only person who just doesn't
It'd be
understand
pretty
that?
cringe.
I mean,
no,
I think it's normal
funny.
to not understand that because the reason cringe comedy exists and is satisfying to so many people is because there's like a psychologically satisfying element to it, right? Like, and not to sound insanely black and white, but like there have been like studies, there are like a multitude of like video essays, if that's more your thing, where you just examine, why is cringe content, whether it's in comedy or just on the internet, so popular. Like,
Makes you feel better about yourself.
I mean, I think that's part of it. Definitely.
Real quick, we've gone through everyone's final thoughts, so Evan, hit us with those Golden Globes.
All right, why don't we just do like the big actors and best picture noms?
Yeah,
maybe best director.
Just the big ones, real quick.
Yeah.
So we have an idea of what.
So let's see.
Watch.
Best motion picture drama. The nominees are Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Past Lives, The Zone of Interest, and Anatomy of a Fall. Most of which, I've only seen a couple. I really want to see Zone of Interest. That one looks like it's going to be really good.
We saw the trailer for that, right?
Yeah.
Is it Jonathan Glazer or Jonathin Demme? One of the, I think it's Demme.
It was a very weird trailer.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's I think it's a like kind of Nazi Germany story about a like German general or something in charge of Auschwitz, and he lives right outside of it, and kind of tries to. I guess it's kind of like a family sort of drama, I think, but with that kind of historical context, like right next door, literally. Seems, pretty dark, pretty interesting.
Pretty relevant.
Right.
Best Picture, Musical or Comedy. The nominees are Barbie, Poor Things, American Fiction, The Holdovers, May, December, and Air.
I really want to watch May, December.
Something kind of fun about May, December. There's this old woman. Okay, this is kind of maybe not old woman. She seems older, maybe like 50. I don't know, but she was in my one of my classes at USF, just like sitting in for some reason. I don't know if she paid. I have no idea what the situation is. Anyway, she didn't really like talk all year, and she sat there. But on the last day of class this semester, she was telling everybody like she's like, my son wrote a movie. It's called May December, and it's gonna be on Netflix this Friday.
What?
I was like, what the fuck? Like, yeah. So it's kind of interesting.
That's crazy. It's like one of the biggest movies right now.
Yeah. So shout out
Kind of
to her.
kind of deal. Sounds kind of oddly similar to Dream Scenario. There's just some woman that's a bystander in your class the entire semester and does nothing with no explanation, dude.
Oh my god.
I don't know.
It's crazy.
All right. Best Director. Bradley Cooper for Maestro. Greta Gerwig for Barbie, Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, Chris Nolan, Oppenheimer, Scorsese, Celine Song for Past Lives.
Do we think Scorsese finally gets another one?
I mean, I think Killers of the Flower Moon was like
second Oscar.
One of my favorite Scorsese movies. I thought that was pretty excellent.
Fucking incredible. It's some of the best directing ever.
Yeah. That was really good.
Filmatic episode.
Right. Best screenplay. Barbie. Poor Things, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Past Lives, and Anatomy of a Fall. Basically, just same.
So we kind of
get
get the gist of some of the movies we're gonna be watching.
Yeah, it seems like these are
really sad. Cage. Really sad.
Yeah. Maybe perhaps this one was released too late for it to count. Although I think Maestro is just now coming. Oh yeah, Port. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Maybe I guess it's more about like the festival circuits or whatnot, which this did play
This
at
did,
a
yeah.
lot of the earlier ones.
Toronto.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just
All right.
Maybe they're just
let's
fucking
be
it
honest.
over.
Like, I don't know how the Golden Globes work, but with like the Oscars, like, it's really just a popularity contest. You just have to like,
Yeah.
Get screeners.
you really just have to like
and lobby
publicize
people,
like your movie, and lobby for it. It's like kind of bullshit.
Well,
And then
Alright.
yeah, I don't know if you
We'll
guys want
get
me to
into
go
it
through
when
the
we get to
actors,
the
actresses. It's all right.
to Filmatic
Yeah.
Oscar month, you know.
But yeah, that's the kind of
Mhm.
gist of what we're kind of what everyone's
Sounds good.
focusing on.
So
Oh wait, you know what? Here we go. Best performance by an actor in a motion picture. Nicolas Cage Dream
Let's
Scenario.
go!
There we go.
Oh
let's fucking
shit!
go! We won. I mean, we didn't win, but
We we did that.
Got
This
the nom.
podcast. Fucking
That was
yeah.
all
Let's see
us.
if he
let's
gets the
fucking
win.
go. The Oscars better take a note. You know? Now I care about the Golden Globes. Yeah, the Golden Globes are awesome.
Doesn't look like it's nominated for anything else.
Fuck the Golden Globes. Anyone?
Yeah, fuck the Golden Globes. We hate the Golden
Yeah.
Globes.
All right. Let's enter the plug section. It's where Connor gets a butt plug. Little, I don't know.
Oh.
I thought it'd be fun.
Hunter showed up just in time for the plug section of the podcast.
I've been here for an hour and a half.
Yeah, and you've-
an hour and a half.
Yes, it's 1:30.
Holy
Woohoo.
shit, that's awesome. I'm so
God
sorry.
damn.
Dude.
Dude, this
Unplugging
yeah,
King
so-
is how you know
Reef.
Filmatic's back.
Did we
Everybody
hit
looks
3.5
down.
hours on this podcast?
Yes.
We did, bro.
We
That's
hit
like
3.5?
Shrek podcast numbers. Let's go.
This is literally like nearing Batman.
This is like probably
Fucking
third or
podcast,
fourth.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Dude, you know it's Filmatic's back when at the end everybody looks like they want to shoot themselves.
Dude, I
I'm
looked
tired.
definitively into Bill like I want to play Fortnite Festival.
Yes. Okay.
Dude, I was hoping that would happen after this.
Let's go. Okay.
But yeah, to plug.
Yeah,
I've
plug.
got my third album, my big thesis project, coming out January 1st. I'm very excited. We've got some returning features, some new features, including KC&M over there, Sungrazer, featuring on the
Weird.
opening track.
Excited to hear it.
It's very exciting.
Very exciting.
Hope it goes well.
Okay.
Is this?
I'm sorry.
Is that a new feature?
I'm sorry.
That was-
Yeah. So Burnout album coming out on New Year's. If you're in town, hit us up for some
Burnout.
details about a special event happening. Can I say that, Connor? I'm not gonna give
Yeah,
details.
yeah.
Okay. If you're in
That's
Yeah.
cute.
if you're in SRQ, hit Connor up for some deets about something going down for the album release. Okay.
Facts.
Evan, what do you want to plug, buddy? You want to plug, buddy?
King Reef.
King. Oh yes.
Oh,
King Reef.
King Reef gave me peripheral vertigo as a month old. Check it out.
Let's go.
Fun little tunes.
Yeah, link
We
all the
got
links.
more on the way.
Yeah, we'll put links below for every
Cheers.
plug.
New EP coming out at the end of this month. Hopefully.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Nice.
Woohoo.
All right. Sunguezo. I don't know why I said that. Sungrazer.
So Guizo, we're maybe gonna play a live show if we have any Filmatic viewers.
Filmatic.
You like that?
Filmatic.
You should start a Filmatic
Filmatic.
We're
club.
trying to
January.
in January. We're looking to have a show.
Film files.
Our last one got canceled. And we're working on music. It'll be out at some point.
No,
Let's
Darian.
go.
So yeah.
There's something.
I know Darian's got someone to
No,
plug.
Darian has someone to plug. I'm gonna put my weight behind this too, but Darian,
Whoa.
go ahead and. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't like the rest of the guests make music. However, I do know someone who does. He's an artist from Tallahassee. Well, he's actually from Miami, but now he's in Tallahassee.
Fucking bitches in
Um,
Miami.
Yeah.
Facts.
You gotta check out Ace Prodigy. That is his name on Spotify, Instagram. Ace Prodigy. Right.
There's also a
Um,
subreddit r/Ace Prodigy official who gives you.
He's making
your
like
Redditor.
hip hop, R&B, trap, just to name a few of the genres. And yeah, it's the next big thing. You guys gotta check it out. Get on the wave, before everyone else does.
Let's just
Yeah.
say if you like Gunna, you're gonna love this.
Or
like-
Billie Eilish,
Or
even,
Drake.
I would say.
Or
True,
Drizzy,
Drake is Drake. Yeah, it's a
Like-
good comparison.
If you like Sungrazer or Burnout or King Reef, you're gonna love Ace Prodigy.
And I also,
Morgana.
would
We
like
love
to
music.
say it's highly
If you like
probable.
sound.
It is highly probable that Connor, aka Burnout, will collaborate with Ace
Yes.
Prodigy.
Yes.
Has he responded to that comment?
He has not, but you have both liked the comment regarding the prospect of a collaboration.
Does a
And
lock not exist
I
on this
think it would
channel?
be exciting. I think it would be fun. I think, honestly, your production skills with Ace Prodigy's style would actually create a pretty good end product.
I
But
might have
let's see.
to direct message him and see if we can make something.
Yes. Everybody fucking.
Guilty.
I will
Guilty
dox
Burnout.
Connor,
Guilty.
and then you guys can pressure him to work with Ace Prodigy. Except I just realized I don't know your new address, Connor.
Oh, I
so-
can give it to you.
Yeah, just put it on the screen.
Okay.
Yo, can we also plug
Yo,
Kristoffer Borgli's YouTube channel where he uploads
Yo,
all his
Kristoffer
short films?
Borgli Ari. Yo, Swedish man.
Yo,
Go check him out.
yeah, from Sweden. Yeah, you can watch his short films, such as we saw this one former cult member hears music for the first time, which was pretty funny and pretty interesting.
Yeah, and Octavio.
I would suggest that one. Yeah.
Octavio,
Yeah,
actually,
check it out.
he's our audio engineer. Normally his camera's supposed to be off, but I guess he turned it on.
Yeah.
Anything you want to say, Octavio?
See, look, you know he's an
Snack
audio
right
engineer because
now.
he mutes when he opens the bag of chips.
Look at that.
you gotta respect that.
All right, back to work, Octavio.
He's engineering the audio. It's on purpose.
Do you have anything you want to say as the audio engineer of the podcast to the audience? Any final words?
I feel like I shouldn't speak right now.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, this has been Filmatic.
We're back.
Filmatic season 6.
Filmatic season 6. You got a lot to look forward to. Age of Cage,
Season
Oscar
six.
season.
Go back!
Age of Cage. Rest in
So-
peace, Department.
All right,
Filmatic.
everybody say your
We're
names
speaking it into existence.
in clockwise order.
KC.
Okay. Oh, Connor, go ahead.
Connor.
There you go.
What's
We're
clockwise?
in a different order for you to do.
Yeah, we are in a different order.
All right,
KC.
oh, I have a better idea. So we've been doing this wrong.
Octavio.
I will say your names, and you
Uncle
just
Sarah.
and you guys just like wave or do like a pose when I say. You know what I mean? That way.
Great.
So you've been listening
Perfect.
to Casey and M
Chicken sandwich.
and Connor. and Devin
Right.
and Octavio.
Let's fucking go!
Oh my lucky stars.
and
Oh my lucky stars.
and Darian Nigro.
When did this turn into I love you?
And I've
Fast. Are we doing a Fast
Yeah,
X
we're gonna
Filmatic?
rewatch Fast X 3 times and then do a Filmatic.
Can we please?
yeah.
I feel like there's so much that can be said.
Yeah.
Nabil, who have you been?
And I've been Nabil, undisclosed last name, because I'm trying to only use my first name with a different spelling so that it can't get Google searched. So
Nabil.
don't.
Nabil Santoro.
Yeah, that's it.
Nabil Sartorius.
Diesel.
Yeah, I'm Diesel.
Sabeel.
Vin Diesel.
Sabeel.
Alright.
Okay. All right. See you guys.
Bye.
Borgli.
Yeah, Borleo.
Yeah, see ya, bye.
Alright,
See
see
ya.
ya.
Bye.
Bye.